Welcome, everyone. Marco?
Welcome.
Jeffrey?
Welcome, everyone, indeed.
Hey, Marco. Hey, Zach.
Hey, guys, listen, we've got the final table of the 10K high rollers, and Mr. Jeffrey, you were just saying in our chat, this is full of beasts. All of these players are very well known on the online community. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I don't know every single one of them by their real name. I recognize all of them, and I do know like 5 or 6 by their real names.
So going through it right now, first place we've got Darren Elias, correct? And I'm sure you know who he is. He actually is going by his real name, unless somebody has stolen his real name, his screen name. I'm not sure, but I think that's Mr. Elias.
That would be awful, but whoever did that is pretty good.
Sick level, Marco. Somebody stealing your name online, that'd be pretty crazy. But no, I think that's Darren Elias. And a lot of these players, yeah, like Jeff said, are very well known. So this should be a lot of fun today. I think we're going to have a pretty cool lineup of guys coming on, Marco, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean we've been watching this final table for a while. I think most of us have been railing it. I'm going to have to ask our distinguished commentators, what they make of the contenders. We should say the programming was subject to change, and has been subject to change. We were originally supposed to have our friend Timex, Mike McDonald, join us here for commentary on this final table, but he suddenly became unavailable. However, but he might still join us. It's unclear at this point, and we'd be happy to have him if he suddenly does become available. But we are lucky to be joined in Timex's absence. Noted Timex understudy, Jeff Romano. Jeff, you've subbed for Mike McDonald in the past, haven't you?
I don't know if I have, but I'll take it. I mean, he's one of the best players.
Okay. And shouldn't we also be joined by Adam? Is Adam here with us?
He said he'll be here in a few minutes, and we'll get started without him, but he will be joining us.
Okay.
Now I have to quickly make a slide with Adam kind of creeping on Jeff. Don't you say, Marco?
Absolutely.
We'll get to that later, apparently.
Yeah. No. Well, we gotta have Adam on.
We got a 3-bet here from and an all-in shove from Paolo 69.
Yeah, that's Paul Thornton or Tab on some other sites. Lead boots or he was lead boots on full tilt.
We'll see if we have real hands. Wow.
Put the king out there for him. Nice.
Gets a double up.
Sorry, I've been talking to Tab a little bit lately. I wanted to see him ship this. Him and Darren are the only guys I've actually met before that are at this final table. I know I'm the Nuts is Oliver, I think.
Yep.
I think it is Oliver. Yeah, so
yep, it is.
Usually he plays pretty damn active, but he's only got 20 big blinds right now, so I don't know if
he went into this.
Opening.
Yeah, when we started streaming this morning, there was about 22 left, and he was in first place. So yeah, he's definitely been active. He's not scared to move the chips around, so it should be interesting to see how he plays from here on out.
I remember watching him when he was on the PCA final table when he came in second to Galen Hall. He plays any 2 cards, plays them well too. So, but I mean, now that he's at a 20 big blind stack, I don't know how light he'll be opening.
He's min opening, with the 20 big blind stack. That's interesting.
I think anyone under a 30 big blind stack should be min betting as they're open. I think that's pretty standard, maybe 2.2x or whatever. But I wouldn't suspect the Nuts to do anything but min bet since he opens so much. The more you min bet, the more you open, the smaller your bet sizing should be.
I'd like to disagree with you there, Jeff.
You don't agree with me? Why not?
I think Marco likes to open
I'm absolutely in no position to disagree with you.
Yeah, Marco just likes to open
joking.
shove. 100 big blind stacks, Marco shoves.
I'm disagreement. It's always good to talk poker, take different angles. That's the only way you get better.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course. I mean, so you're in favor of the. Well, what point can you said under 30? Min opening. At what point do you start shoving then?
I would say like 18 or less, or maybe even 20, depending on your hand. I mean, I'd be shoving hands like pocket sevens and pocket sixes, where I don't want people to be 3-betting me with a hand like king queen or like ace 10. Like, I'd want to get them off those type of hands.
I think it goes pretty much. We've got Darren pretty much betting pot here. Well, not pot, but 3/4 or whatever you want to call it.
I think Darren's the best tournament player at this table right now. He's unbelievable. He's old school too. He's been around for a while.
Yeah, he sure has. A lot of F-top. I think he's won a few F-tops, has he not?
Oh. He's won a ton. I don't know if maybe he came second or third in a Borgata main event a year or two back. I forget what it was. I know he was really deep in it. He had a pretty huge cash too.
Oh yeah, he's definitely one of the top players and probably the best player at this final table. Good read, sir. And there he just goes down small blind to big blind with an open raise there. And here's I'm the Nuts again, a little bit over min raising under the gun. You like that play with this stack under the gun?
I think I don't know how. I mean, he's pretty active. I would be 3-betting him pretty light, and this would be a good spot for a cold 4-bet if they think I'm the Nuts is light, but I guess not. Like, Darren Elias could probably get away with like a 60K bet there and get Artem to fold a ton of his range.
Right.
But I guess I'm the Nuts wakes up.
There you are.
And I mean, that's the advantage. Like, that's the advantage of Chris Oliver. He plays so many hands and opens so many hands that like you never can put him on a hand when he does have it. You know.
Sure.
So he gets queens and just doubles instantly. Must be nice.
So now our short stack is Monster Dong. Pretty interesting screen name. He's got about 20 big blinds. And I think, let me just check, yeah, it's almost 20 minutes, or less than 20 minutes, the blinds will be 5-10 with an ante of 1250. So got a lot of time at this level.
We got for a pay jump right now. Last 10th was 44K, and now we're going up to 52. Pretty nice, huh?
It is, yeah.
Nice hourly when you win this. Like 48 hours of online.
Speaking of this, Jeff, this is a 10K event, and are you surprised with the number? We almost had 300, 297. Are you surprised with how many people are playing this? I kind of thought it would be a little bit more. I mean, I don't know what. I haven't been playing on Stars recently, but I mean, for a 10K buy-in with barely any U.S. players, I guess all the really, really good U.S. players moved out to Costa Rica or Canada, anyways. But I mean, that's a ton of people to play an online tournament. You know, a 10K online tournament. Sure. I mean, you'd expect it for a live event for sure, but this is a lot of people, I think. Okay.
I haven't really been playing Stars lately, so I can't say that for sure.
Are you still in the United States, or did you relocate?
No, I'm still in the United States. Don't really want to move out. I like this country too much.
A good patriot. I like Jeff. I like it a lot.
Thanks,
I like
Marco.
Jeff too, Marco. Jeff's a good kid.
Oh, good. How'd your series go? I saw you guys a few times out there. Did it end up all right? Success?
It was a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah, it was good seeing you, Jeff.
Long summer.
Marco, what do you make of WCOOP betting so much there on the turn?
Well, I haven't had a... Oh, wow. What is this? The Jacks win. I haven't had a lot of time to really look up WCOOP. But was the river checked there?
Yes, I believe so.
Both checked the river?
Alright, Paolo's sitting like 60 big blinds deep. About.
Yeah.
Opening up under the gun. I think he could have a wide range here. It's good to note the average stack right now was pretty deep, actually. Like, Monster Dong is the smallest, and he has 20 big blinds. You don't really see that often at a final table. Usually there's a few people with like 10 or 12, big blind stacks. But Paolo gets 3-bet by a 30 big blind stack. A choppy.
We're being told by Debbie wants to know in our chat that WCOOP took out Daniel Negreanu out of this exact tournament. Thank you, Debbie.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Is there a bounty on the Stars players, the pros?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
A lot of times the sites do like a buy-in back or whatever if you knock them out.
Debbie is so good at wanting to know, she can tell when other people want to know and informs accordingly.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Alright, so Choppy's pretty active. He just 3-bet Paolo and took it down, and now he's opening min raising from middle position. I wish I had my I could get like a hold'em manager going for this.
I know.
Really help.
It would. I was thinking the same thing. It'd be cool for our audience to watch as well with it.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more in-depth analysis of like the numbers. That's pretty much what I go by these days. Is just hold'em manager. I think that's standard for the online community.
Yeah, I agree. I was just going to say, I don't think we're going to see too many pots not raised here on this final table.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So Monster Dong shucks 20 bigs. This is a pretty standard spot. I think he has a wide range. He'd be doing that with any pair in like King Jack offsuit plus King 10 suited, probably even like King 9 suited. I mean, he knows Psycho and opens pretty wide. Where's Psycho from? Norway or something?
Yep.
Yeah, you know that he's the type of player who opens wide.
And I'm the nuts again. Takes it down.
Yeah, he's scary to play against. I mean, these guys are all the top pros, and like, he's the type of player they probably want to avoid post-fall pots with. Pretty sick though. $500,000 for first.
Yeah.
600. Tax free.
Tax free, really?
I don't know. It depends on what country you're in.
True. I don't know how many really are tax free these days. Maybe like North Korea.
Yeah. Is the UK tax free for these?
I don't know.
Like, or Canada.
Sure.
Canada. I'm almost positive Canada is.
Canada's tax free if you have a job.
Yeah. So go out and get a bar job or something. Bartend for 2 hours a week.
Exactly.
Work at Starbucks. Get all the benefits.
Well, work at Tim Hortons. That's the Canadian version of Starbucks.
Oh, Tim Hortons, yeah. Get free morning coffee.
Right.
Are we ready to beam Adam Schwartz? Beam him up?
Yeah, I think I actually just saw that, Marco, and I think that Adam can just join the call if we want to just type that into the chat. Because we already called him, so I think he can just come on anytime. Mm-hmm. Again, these little opens, Jeffrey, it seems like it's pretty standard. I think that's a sign of good players, would you not?
Yep. Yeah, I would say that it induces more post-flop action, so players who are good at playing post-flop want to min-raise just so they can play more hands. So if you're worse at post-flop, just make raises bigger, but these guys are all pretty solid.
Hey, guys.
Adam, welcome.
How are you?
Not bad. We're very glad you could join us.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
No. The pleasure is all ours. Adam, you've met Jeff.
Have I?
Adam, what's up? I don't think we have met before.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good, great. Railing this final table.
Yeah, it looks like a stacked final table.
Yeah.
Adam, tell us. How is everything going at the Pokercast?
The Pokercast is good. Yeah, we having fun, pumping out the shows just like you guys, and doing our thing.
That's wonderful. You've been playing a lot there in Canada.
Yeah, I've been playing a fair amount of cash games. Need to get my just get enough hands in to get Supernova again, and keep me busy for sure.
What do you have to rake for Supernova? Do you know?
I don't know the total dollar figure. You need 100,000 FPPs, VPPs, but I'm not sure what the total rake is for that.
Do they still run like the happy hours and stuff where they give away double?
Once in a while, they had. I think they had one about a month back. Haven't seen one for a little while. I'm kind of hamstrung with when I can grind and stuff, so pay a ton of attention to that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's all good. That Supernova.
Gotta get it.
Adam, you were railing this final table too, aren't you?
I was, yeah. I watched from about 3 tables down, off and on. Oh, I got the Advil ad on now.
Aren't you watching on Pokerstars? Forget Advil. Yeah, Adam, come on. That's such a rookie thing here at QuadJacks.
That's pretty lame.
No, just watch through the client, man. Then that way you'll be in sync with all of us.
I got it. Okay.
There's a dynamic here at the beginning of the final table. People are going to play tighter just because it's the very beginning of the final table. I feel like certain players will. I don't know if these guys will, but I mean, I think that's pretty standard for most online tournaments. Like, as soon as you get up to the final table, people just knit it up to get a pay grade or something. Or just because they don't want to bust right away. You know, this is probably their biggest tournament of the year.
Well, they're probably used to the blinds just whipping around, right? When you're playing six-handed, five-handed for an hour or two, and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monster Dong's been playing pretty tight. The only thing he's done is reshoved on a button open. I'm the Nuts is definitely the loosest at the table right now. Darren Elias is playing pretty tight. Powell has been playing pretty aggressive, but he did pick up hands. See if he 4-bets here. Artemis, what is he? He min raises, and then Psychoin makes a pretty small 3-bet, which leads me to think that he's a little lighter here because his 3-bet's so small, but it does make up a good portion of Artem's stack. It makes up over 10% of his stack.
Now, why would you re-raise so small there out of position when, you know, you're going to be – it's almost always an automatic call for a guy for a min 3-bet?
I think it's because he has such a huge edge. He thinks he has a huge edge on him post-flop, or because he thinks that – or he could have had a hand like aces and did want action, you know?
Right.
Or he could have just been, he could have just been so light that he said, I'll just barrel this flop, and Artem's going to fold most of the time on all dry flops.
Gotcha.
I don't know, though. I don't have many. I've never played with Artem before. I don't know how he plays. I think this is a good spot for Psycho and 3-bet, though, or just play post-flop because he's the only stack that can really hurt Darren Elias, so I think Darren has to play a little bit more cautious versus him. So I'd expect Darren to fold more of his range to Psycho and than anyone else. But I mean, his button 5 does look light.
Right. Palos 69 is Paul Fulton. He's got 2.2 million online earnings.
Yeah, he's really good. Led boots on FTP or was, and then I think he's a Feldstars pro now. I'm not sure. I think he's Feldstars.
Would you mind repeating that name, Adam? Paul
Fulton.
Fulton. Got it.
Foltyn, yeah.
I'm trying to think of Psychoin's range for flatting here on the button. I feel like it'd be a lot of mid pairs, 6s, 5s, 7s, 4s. Pretty much any low pair, like a hand like Ace-Jack. King-Jack plays pretty well post. 8s for sure. So I think he has a decent hand here. A hand with showdown value. Yeah, if he checks it back, I think he has a hand with showdown value.
When Psychon just checkbacks the flop, it kind of takes all his big hands out of his range, right? I mean, given that flop.
I thought Darren led.
I thought it went check flop. Sorry.
Either way, though, yeah, I agree. If he does check back the flop, I think it takes away some of his sets and maybe even a hand like 8s. But this isn't really a board he's getting check raised on that much.
Or even if he flats Darren's bet on the flop, it kind of that's a bit different, I guess.
So Darren leads almost pot into him right now when the Jack of Diamonds hits. Makes me think that he's pretty strong here. And that he's trying to put Psycho in on a hand like 6s and 5s. And he's trying to get value out of him. But I mean, the Jack does make the straight, makes the 10-8 straight. It would make a hand like 10-Jack if he was barreling that as well. Or he could have a combo draw like a Jack with 2 spades. Darren could have, although he probably would have led the turn. I think Psycho had a mid pair there. Just had to give it up. Darren min raises under the gun.
Still a pretty wide range there that went to the gun, right?
What's that?
Still a pretty wide range under the gun there with the big stack.
I agree. Especially the way the table's been playing. I don't think anyone really wants to mess with him.
Pretty dry flop.
Yeah, the ace high. I don't know how many 3s and 4s are in Palo's range right now. This would be a good board for Darren Elias to check raise if Palo bets it.
Or Palo to check back like ace 10 on the flop or something.
Yeah, definitely. God, what would Palo do if he had a hand like ace 10 and Darren just check raises him like half his stack? Like, what do? You know, it's so hard. His stack he's got such a good stack right now. Let's go on check the whole way.
What do you think Darren's got here?
I don't know. I would think a hand with showdown value. If you raise, I mean, if he's checking all the streets, like is he just not going to bluff at it? I assume with his stack he would bluff.
He's got like 2 7s and he's just value betting the river.
It'd be a sick value bet if he had 2 7s right there. Like that's just like those are like the pros who can value bet the middle of their range. Those are the ones that are like they're so good. Like I don't understand them. You know, I'd be making as much as them if I did. But some of those guys, if you can value bet the bottom of your range, like that's crazy.
Well, he's got such a great stack size relative to the table too to be doing that.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, he raised under the gun. He's rarely ever going to get bluff raised there on the river.
So far, he hasn't shown down a hand and he hasn't lost the pot. So I think Darren's kind of taking over right now. Shook him min raises. Darren just flats from the small blind.
Wow,
maybe trying to induce a 3-bet from choppy, or is just trying to outplay him out of position.
Just standard outplay out of position. Oh, there's the induced.
Choppy does 3-bet. See if Darren crams it in here, it says he was trying to induce. If he just flats again, I have no idea. I'm lost.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm lost. I got no more analysis. No more analysis for this.
I mean, it's not a bad play with 2 aces, right?
No, this is like the nut play with 2 aces. I mean, he's getting choppy to put in so many chips. Choppy bets a third of the pot, which is pretty standard for this stage of the tournament. You don't need to be c-betting on like half pot or 2/3 pot. You know, with the blinds and antes pre-flop, Darren just folds. The blinds and antes pre-flop, the pot is so bloated post-flop that a third of the pot makes up a lot of the other person's stack most of the time. I'm trying to think of hands that Darren could have there that he would just flat and then fold post. I really don't know. Maybe like Jack Queen or something.
Even that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It is weird.
Do you have any info on Shookum?
I've never played with Shookum before. I've seen him in all the high-stakes tournaments, so I'm sure he's good. So Psycho and opens light, he's been opening a lot. Shookum 3-bets him. This is a good spot for a cold 4 from Darren. He doesn't need a hand here. Let's see if Psycho on 5-bets is a bluff. That would be crazy if he made it like 200K. He just folds. This puts a ton of pressure on Shookum, and Darren knows that Shookum knows that Psychoin's been opening light. So I think with his 3-bet sizing, it's like 2.5 to 40K.
Yeah.
From the cutoff is obviously going to be one of his lightest 3-bet spots. My only thing is the sizing for Shookum was 40K, which means I think he was a little bit stronger, but I guess not since Darren took it down with the cold 4-bet. But most of the time I see like just the person who 3-bets would usually just double it when double the person's open when they're light. So that's why I thought Shookum was a little bit stronger, but I guess not. And Darren is clearly putting a ridiculous amount of pressure on everyone at this table.
Yeah, that bet sizing just put Shookum in a horrible spot there. The blinds just went up to 5K, 10K as well, so now I'm the nuts stuck with the 20
23 big blind stack, and Monster Dong is well, he just shoved. He's got a
just shoved
stack. Yeah, his range here should be like 6s plus. A lot of suited Jack Queen stuff like that. Ace 10 plus. Pretty wide range, but he has been playing pretty tight, so he should be getting some of the better hands, some of the hands that beat his range to fold, just because of how tight he's been playing.
You can't raise fold there with 160, make it 20 and fold?
I wouldn't suggest raise folding with a 16 big blind stack. So I mean, some people do, and I don't think it's too bad. But he hasn't been opening much, so I think a shove is just better. If he's been opening a lot, I would say you could raise fold. But you have to give Monster Dong a lot of credit.
Why?
Just because he's been folding so much, he hasn't really played a hand. The only hand he played before was against Psycho, and when Psycho raised his big blind, and he just reshipped 20 bigs.
So they have to give him a lot of credit. I thought you were talking like about us.
No.
Or something.
I mean, but we do too. He's a heck of a player.
We celebrate Monster Dong. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, wasn't he the part of the Doyle Brunson 10 or something? I think.
He's Australian, Jason Camerlakis. He's won everything down in Australia for sure.
So if he min raises under the gun right now, I think he's pretty strong. I don't know if he's going to min raise 184 or 18 big blind stack light. Although that's like another level, you know. Like if he knows everyone knows that he's going to be strong when he does that, he could do it as a bluff. I guess that's like a different style of poker.
Right.
Once again, Darren Elias opens. I wouldn't. You don't need to give him credit for a hand at all right now. I think he's going to be opening a ton of hands because he's just outplaying the table.
Yeah, and the next biggest stacks are in the blinds there. You know, they just want to play a pot with them at all.
Yeah, definitely.
That wasn't an accident, I'm sure.
And now Artem is down to 25 bigs. So the stacks that are going to be folding a lot right now are going to be like Paolo should be playing on the tighter side, Shookum and Nandor, because the pay jumps are so much. Psycho and I would say would be playing tighter, but he has a stack that can, you know, he's got 88 big blinds. He can really hurt Darren if he gets involved in a big pot with him. So I don't know how tight Psychoin's playing. And Psychoin should be picking on Shookum a lot. And Nandor. And Choppy as well.
These guys haven't played a hand, Choppy or Nandor, yet.
No, they haven't.
That's a weird flat.
Yeah. He could have been flatting to induce Monster Dong to shove. Find out. I don't know. I think he could have flatted a hand like King Jack there and was folding to Monster Dong shove.
Yeah, when he flats there, he's just offering Camerlakis such a great price to shove.
Yeah. I think a hand that I would flat there and then call off Monster Dong shove is a hand like 8s, maybe even 9s, and then obviously the top of my range like aces and kings. A lot of times I do flat to induce a 3-bet from a 20 big blind stack that's in the blinds.
Right.
See if Monster Dong opens here. Yeah, he's playing pretty tight.
Well, Darren's in the big blinds.
Yeah, he doesn't want to mess with Darren much. Darren should be flatting 100% of hands here, or 3-betting. He should just never be folding. I mean, Shookum's playing a 35 big blind stack, which is one of the harder stacks to play in poker. So his edge is going to come out a lot in this hand.
Now he just makes it 48 and takes it down almost every time, right? Because his range is so wide. That's a bad card.
Yeah. Like this, I mean, it's just hard for Shookum to play this hand, just this pot.
I'm surprised Darren flatted that flop.
Yeah, me too.
Seems like a great flop to take it away.
Maybe he has notes on the guy, like where if he leads flop and checks turn, you know, he's weak, or you know, if he leads flop and then leads turn, he's strong. So could have just been floating just to take it down with a check on the turn if Shookum checked.
Hey, look, Johnny Kim just woke up.
right, I'm the nuts on the big blind right now with 22 bigs. I wouldn't doubt if this is like a reshove spot for him. I haven't played. I don't know if he's the type of player to reshove very wide pre-flop. I know he opens really wide and plays a ton post, but I don't know how he reshoves pre. Yeah, he just gives it up.
I mean, Powell's range there's pretty tight, though. He's got Darren behind him. He knows he's going to get 3-bet a lot in good position.
Powell is a pretty solid player, too. He just plays pretty tight aggressive.
All right, guys. Well, we are now on break, and here we are. Still nine-handed. This final table, 10K high roller. Pokerstars WCOOP. The commentators, the boys who are with us, Hurricane Jeff, Romano, and Adam Schwartz. Guys, why don't we also take this opportunity to freshen up, and let's come back and let's see some bust-outs, okay?
Welcome back. WCOOP, high rollers, 10K buy-in, final table, 9 left. Darren Elias still in first with 1.2 million. Star-studded table, star-studded panel. We're joined by your very own. Well, yeah, I was just going to say you're joined by us, Marco and I, and Jeffrey Romano, aka at Hurricane Jeff on Twitter, and Adam Schwartz at Pokerstars. Adam, who's trying to pimp out his basement right now, so tweet at him if you're interested in the basement. We're back.
What's that?
See some bust out. Bust out hands. Let's go. See some eights first kings, some jacks first queens. Love the action.
Well, you get some action right here. Small blind to big blind.
Yeah, Artem opens up for 2 min raise. He's playing 25 big blind stack, so and it's against Psychoin, who loves to play hands post flop. I mean, this guy, I don't see him folding that much. It's a pretty scary board. Queen Jack 10 should be smacking Artem's opening range. See what Psychoin does.
Yeah, will he peel another one off?
It is a real draw-heavy board, too, so Psychoin could raise, get it in with a lot of hands. He's putting so much pressure on Artem. And Artem started the hand with 25 bigs, so it's that's the tough stack to play, especially with, if you factor in ICM, he's got I'm the Nuts and Monster Dong are also short stacked. And I mean, 2 places up is an extra 50K, which is double what he's making right now. So Psychoin's really putting him to the test. And I mean, he could have so many hands right here that he's raising with. All of his combo draws, his made hands I'd raise with. I don't think he has ace-king because he would have jammed pre-flop or at least 3-bet. But I mean, a hand like king-jack, king-10. And Artem just folds. And I don't really like Artem taking that line against Psychoin just because he knows that Psychoin's going to play so many hands post-flop and that he's giving up. He just gave away 20% of his stack almost just by raise folding the flop. I don't know how much I like it.
Jeff, what's your bet sizing there if you're Artem on the flop? I mean, that obviously comes 10 Jack Queen. Tough, it's a razor's flop. Now you bet a little under half pot with a lot. I mean, that's what he bet. Do you do that with a lot of range?
Half pot, but I think pre-flop I would have switched up my bet sizing. He's just min-raising at pre-flop, and I don't think Psychoin is ever, if he's going to raise at pre-flop, I think he should be raising, 2.5x blind versus blind. He just doesn't want to give Psychoin good odds to flat. And, I mean, against his stack, Psychoin could flat do 7 offsuit there and just own him post-flop like he did. Right. I mean, I don't really like Artem's blind battle versus Psychoin. When you have a guy like him on your left, sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and just knit it up and hope to make hands and get paid when you do.
Right.
And Psychoin 3-bets I'm the Nuts from the button. I don't think Psychoin had to be strong there, but I'm the Nuts just opens up so many hands. And he's got a good stack to 3-bet. Because I'm the Nuts can never flat with his stack. He's either got to 4-bet, cram it in, or fold. And I think that's just what he's done.
Doesn't seem like he's going to fold here if he gets 3-bet.
I would doubt it. But I don't know. I know Chris Oliver just opens up so wide, so I don't know. And he gains so much too when he opens and wins a pot. what's in the middle right now? 27,000. So he's betting 20,000 on a min raise. He's betting 20,000 to win 26,000. So he doesn't even have to win it every other time. You know, you can win it less than every other time, and it's still profitable. You could win it whatever 20 goes into 26, like 15% of the time or something, 30%. I don't know.
Wow, open shoving 20 bigs on the button there. I mean, that's just never a hand, right?
It could be. I don't think it's ever a hand of his top of his range. It could be hands like deuces. I mean, I would probably just stuff deuces, low pairs, hand like king queen. Could just stuff. Although king queen isn't a bad hand to induce with, because Darren's range on shoving is from his big blind. He might have a hand like king 10 suited or king jack offsuit in his shoving range, which would be a good. You know, you'd want to induce with king queen. And if he does flat, king queen plays pretty well post flop. So Mandor's on the big blind right now with 30 bigs. He's playing really tight, so I don't expect him to defend too much, especially versus Monster Dong. I think Monster Dong could be light here though, because he is opening up on Mandor's big blind. Although it is Darren's button, and maybe he's scared of that. Yeah, so Monster Dong was light. I'm surprised Monster Dong opened light there, just because it's Darren's button, and you know, players' most active spot is their button. So usually I play whenever a big stack is on the button. I play kind of tight versus that spot.
We have some feedback, Jeff and Adam from NJW006 in our chat. Best MTT player in Australia, by the way. He says, deuces to 7 mostly, maybe more because of ICM. Like he might not want to induce because of ICM. So he may jam like king, queen, ace, jack, etc.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know about ace, jack as much. I definitely think king, queen, you could jam there. And I definitely agree with all the deuces to 7s. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about ICM as much, which does play a huge factor into this. So I agree with MJW for sure.
Cool.
Would you really not want to induce with ace jack though? I'm saying I would induce with ace jack. I would probably induce with king queen as well. But I don't mind the shove either. Like, it's all player dependent. And everyone has their own style of play, you know. So you have to also adjust it based on your style of play. And I think you could make a case for either for sure. And ICM is everyone's saying in the chat right now it's massive, and I agree it is massive, especially with I'm the Nuts as a short stack, and he's so active that when he has a short stack, he's most likely going to be going for it all or going for nothing. Anytime a really active player is the short stack, I generally play a little bit tighter if I'm the middle stack. Or Monster Dong's also a short stack, but even more case to play tighter.
10's a fun river card.
So another pot between Darren and Psycho, and Darren is, I think, 2-0 against Psycho in pots post-flop. Just pots in general. Pretty draw-heavy board. Very connected. The suits didn't get there, but there are straights and a good amount of 2 pairs.
Big bet on the river here.
Yeah, Psycho one almost bets pot, I think. I can't really see the pot.
Yeah, it's close to pot.
And wasn't it a quiet turn?
Check on the turn. Yeah, the 10.
Yeah, that is a really quiet turn. It's pretty much a blank.
Yes, Darren seems given to contemplation.
Well, the bet sizing here is like if he did make a Broadway here in the river, I can see almost full pot here.
Well, Potential's in our chat. I actually played with him at the World Series of Poker this year.
Really?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Well, you know what? Potential might join us a little bit later if he is available and if we are able to host him.
Sounds great.
Nice. I'd like to take a moment to remind people, because we have about 75 people listening, but only about 17 in chat. If you're listening to this, you'll notice there's a chat box right underneath the visual area. You can sign into that as long as you have Twitter or Facebook, which most of you should. You can just sign in. using those accounts, either of those accounts, and you can interact with us. And if you want to ask questions or submit comments, chances are either I'll read them out loud or our hosts will, like I just read MJW's earlier. So, we care very much about interactivity on this program. So if you'd like to interact with our distinguished commentators, feel free to enter our chat. Don't be afraid. It's always
good to get involved in the poker community as well. You never know how it'll come back to you in the end. Just making connections is always good.
That's very true.
Okay, Marco, but when they sign in, you've got to pronounce their names.
All right. All right. Well, let's see. Who do we have lately?
Squibzords.
We have Squibzords. I remember Squibzords actually. Squibzords, I remember Squibzords hanging out in our chats during the Black Friday, the disaster when that was playing out a lot. What's up, Squib? And then there's Adam. You just asked that because a lot of weirdly named people have signed in as soon as I said that.
I did.
Oh, damn it! All right. Who do we have? Viatu. Oh, Vitautas Kvedaras.
There you go. That's the top.
And of course, my good buddy Niexas Valdas. I'm sure these are all very good and decent people, and of course I welcome them with open arms here in QuadJacks chat. Adam's the one who's trying to get me to make fun of you guys. Adam.
No, it's more about making fun of you, blowing their name.
Awesome. All right, guys.
You get a language lesson. Choppy's in the big blind. This guy's been playing kind of tight. I would expect Artem to be strong here, though, just because of his stack size. See what Monster Dong does.
Nandor literally hasn't played a hand.
What's that?
Nandor literally hasn't played a hand since I've been watching.
Yeah, and Artem's only played that one with the blind versus blind battle. So I would expect Artem to be pretty strong here. Choppy's been pretty tight as well. I mean,
yeah.
If Choppy shoved on him, this could be a cooler. Wow, look at that sizing. Choppy could be... Wow, this looks like the nuts or nothing, to be honest. Can Choppy raise to 43K and then fold to 200? I think he can.
I mean, doesn't any 3-bet here literally commit Artem, though? I mean, you're saying...
Yeah, that's why I think it's good sizing on Choppy, because Artem should be getting it in or folding, unless he has a hand like aces and he wants to, induce more action. But I think this is really good sizing on Choppy's part. And Artem was, wow. I wonder what he got Artem to fold.
Yeah, I mean, you can just be your whole range. You can min raise there because Artem's never going to play a hand and then fold the flop.
Yeah. Oh wow, man. Choppy's good.
That's a neat little tidbit there for people out there.
Yeah, Choppy's really good.
I learned something today.
It's 3-betting Palo. This is a great spot for him to 3-bet. It's putting a ton of pressure on a mid stack. I mean, Palo has he's got so many chips. He's got 45 bigs. Like he can coast a little bit and try to cash for a little bit more. I know that's not his mindset, but this is just a really good spot for Darren to be putting pressure on him. Like even if Palo 4-bets this, he's putting in a huge amount of his stack.
Have a question in the queue, guys, from James the Bear while we wait for Paul. Would Karamalikis really be playing his button with ICM concerns, considering all the success he's had? I, James, still think he'd be going for a really deep run and not trying to just make a small move up the pay ladder.
Well, it seems like ICM it should be a consideration regardless of if he's trying to win or not. I mean, it's... I don't know. What do you think, John?
I would think that he's still playing ICM. It's just you can't really beating poker is all about playing your best in every situation. It's not always about winning everything and all that stuff. I mean, it's always obviously everything's more top heavy. Tournaments are more top heavy, but I mean ICM is half. That's what poker is based on. It's making as much money as you can in every situation. But certain players definitely don't do it. But So Paolo did 4-bet Darren, and Darren folded. Potential saying that it was a good spot for Paolo to be light. I agree with him that it was. It would have been sick if Darren had 5-bet or flatted him. It's just so hard to play. Paolo's pretty deep. But it's good to note that Paolo isn't completely scared of Darren. And so far at this table, he's one of the only players that's shown that, him and Psycho, and everyone else seems to be yielding to Darren. Shookum is raising on Artem's big blind. I don't think he has to be too strong here. There are some shove stacks behind him. Nandor. The thing is, Nandor and I'm the Nuts are both shove stacks, but none of them have really been ripping on people. So there really aren't that many shove stacks behind him. And Artem's giving up a lot of his big blinds. He's been. I don't think he's seen a flop yet, or he has. He saw the blind versus blind battle and then lost that. So Artem hasn't won a pot yet at the final table.
I mean, Nandor literally isn't at his computer at all.
Yeah, he's sitting.
He went for lunch.
Well, I was going to ask you guys about that because I think just before we went to break, Monster Dong was the short stack at the table, and that's changed since.
Yeah, he was at 160K, I think.
Yeah.
And now he's all the way up to 230, which, I mean, it's not a huge difference in his stack size, but, I mean, it's playing into it.
He's just told blinds.
Yeah. That's all you have to do each time. It's 27,000, you know? One reshove or a couple of light opens that take it down, like, you're good. You can survive. Also, I think that certain players at this table are going to have a much bigger edge when the field gets smaller. Like when we get down to like 5 and 6 players, certain people will lose their edge in the game and certain will gain it. So I don't know how many of these guys are like head-up players. I don't know if Psycho is a head-up player. For some reason I think he is, but I'm not sure. But the head-up players, the people who play head-up sit and goes, head-up cash, their edge is going to grow exponentially as the fields is like, you know, we get shorter-handed.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of times some of these guys are going to knit it up when it's full ring just because their edge is so much greater, you know, when there are less people. So it makes more sense to do that.
Hey, Jeff, do you think guys with 16, 17, 18 big blinds tend to wait a little bit too much for a 3-bet spot because, you know, they've got a good 3-bet shipping stack and maybe they don't
I mean, it's
shy away from attacking the blinds a bit?
Yeah, it's just it's such a hard stack when you don't want to raise fold so much, and but sometimes you do have to pass on spots where you can just steal the blinds just because you want to maintain that reshove stack, and against certain players like I'm the Nuts and Psycho, and like it's going to be more profitable in the long run to reshove on them than it is to be opening light to steal the blinds. But it's a weird dynamic. Like Monster Dong's in a really tough spot in this table, probably the hardest spot of anybody, because he's got Darren 2 to his left, and Shookum is like a good player with a good stack, and Paolo's on his right. He's sandwiched between like the bigger stacks. I think he has probably the worst spot on the table. Maybe Artem does, but Artem's not playing any hands anyways.
Yeah, and when the guys who are super tight, Choppy and Nando, are in the big blind, it's Darren's button. Yeah,
Choppy has I think Choppy has a really good spot. Maybe not actually. Yeah, Choppy's got a great spot. Yeah, because he's gonna be able to steal Nandor and I'm the Nuts' big blind, and Artem's a good spot to steal as well. So someone's saying potential saying that Psycho is just a random who banked a mill. Must be nice. I wish I was a random that banked a mill. Can't say that I've done that though. I'm the Nuts min raises under the gun. That is a good spot for him to min raise any too because Nandor's been so tight.
Yeah.
But this day and age, the under the gun open looks like the button. You know, it's like the lightest spot to be opening. So I don't know. I'm sure there's some meta game here that these guys are going through. Paolo flats, Psychoin's he flats is open. I don't think Paolo's flatting to induce here. I think he has like the middle of his range right now. So that's a flop that actually does hit Paolo's range good amount. The only hands it doesn't hit for Paolo's range are his lower pairs. I think the rest of it hits pretty hard, like the Queen Jacks, the Jack Nines, King Jacks. Don't think he has Ace King. I don't think he has Ace Queen. Could have Ace Jack as well.
You think he flats with like a hand like King Jack off there?
Yeah, I think King Jack off is one of the better hands for him to flat with. You don't really want to 3-bet Psycho in because he could 4-bet you. I think King Jack. Yeah, I think King Jack is like the middle of his or the top of his flatting range. King Jack and Ace Jack. That's just how I play. I flat King Jack a good amount.
Jack 9 off.
Yeah, he could have Jack 9 off as well.
Wow.
I don't think he has a hand like Ace 3 of diamonds or something. I think a hand like Ace X of diamonds would be more likely to 3-bet pre-flop, 3-bet fold. Potential saying he'd rather 3-bet King Jack there.
You and Potential working pretty well together there, Jeff.
Well, we share the table together at the World Series. We got some history.
I cannot wait to combine the two of you if we get a chance today on this final table. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So Paolo's half-potting on the turn. I think he bet flop. He half-potted turn. I don't think Paolo's ever really weak here. I think at worst he has some sort of combo draw or just some good draw. I mean, I don't think Paolo's just betting air here is what I'm saying. I'd love to know what Psychoin has. I mean, would Psychoin just check 2 streets in a row with a hand like Ace King? I think he would, which is crazy. Like if he's good enough to. So the diamonds missed, the straight missed. So now pretty much any hand that was good on the flop is good now still.
I mean, how polarized is his range here if he bets the river? It's not like 2 8s.
Trying to think if he would value bet the middle of his range like a 10 Jack or something, 10 Jack suited, or a 10-9 suited. He could be getting value from 8s or 9s if he does bet a 10 Jack. Or I'm just trying to think of what like Queen 10 suited he could have flatted pre-flop. But a lot of those hands I'd rather 3-bet, and so he does take it down with the big bet on the river. Leaning towards Psycho and had some sort of draw. I don't know if he can call 2 streets with a hand like 8s and 9s and then fold the river.
Yeah, seems like a river is interesting spot.
Choppy opens up and Nandor jams 20 bigs. I mean, if he has worse than kings, I'd be surprised. He hasn't played a hand yet.
No, he misclicked. He was trying to fold.
You imagine that if he doesn't play a single hand and then misclicks like ace deuce or something. So much pain.
All right, guys, I'm going to step out. I got to go run a couple errands, and I'll leave you guys to it. I'll check back in a while.
Take care.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Adam. Talk to you later.
But no one's been knocked out yet. It's kind of crazy. They've had at least a full hour this final table without a knockout. So Psychoin is just limping the small blind. I think this is pretty weak on his part, unless he plans to limp re-raise. But if I were Paolo, I probably would raise any 2 there, just because I don't want Psychoin to think that he can limp my blinds or limp my big blind much. And when he checks this flop right now, I think he either has a strong hand or absolutely nothing. I mean, a 9-9-4 board, I don't know how that really hits his limping range. What 9s does he limp with? 9-10, 9-Jack? Probably be better off raising those. So he checks twice, and now I think he's really weak. Or he checked back like a 7-6. But I still think Psychoin's weak. If he bets like pot here, I would lean towards him being stronger. Yeah, he could have a hand like 7-6. That he just thought if he checked. if he checked twice to Paolo, that Paolo would fire the turn as a bluff, which I do often. If someone limps small blind or someone plays blind versus me and they check 2 streets in a row, I usually am inclined to bet the turn. The nuts opens up again on Monster Dong's big blind on a 20 big blind stack, takes it down. So I'm the nuts has actually been playing pretty solid. He hasn't won any all-ins or anything, and he's maintained his stack and actually chipped up a little bit at the final table. He's been opening a lot and open folding too. Blinds went up to 6K, 12K. So now the average stack is a little bit shallower. Monster Dong is stuck now with 16 bigs, and I'm the nuts is stuck with 20. Artem is on his way out with 11 big blinds. And the blind increase doesn't really affect many other players. It affects Nandor because Nandor has just been folding so much that he's going to be chewed up by the blinds now. And Psychoin continues to attack Darren's big blind, which I don't mind.
All right, Jeff, I am going to, as we say here on QuadJacks, throw a rope to our buddy Potential, who has been in chat. You guys have been going back and forth a little bit, and so we're going to be bringing him right on the panel.
Giddy up.
We've been meaning to actually feature him. We've been meaning to feature him here on the WCOOP final table covers. So I'm eager to listen to what he has to say. I'd be prepared to bring him on whenever, Zach. I think Jeff is too. So anytime we want to
I think he's here, Marco.
There we go. Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Ryan, how are you doing? Welcome to QuadJacks, and welcome to the WCOOP final table coverage of QuadJacks.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Now, Ryan and Jeff, you guys are acquainted?
Yeah, Ryan, are you making videos for Tournament Poker Edge?
No. They'd made me an offer, but
All in and call. Excuse me. Sorry. Tens versus Jacks, Elias versus Monster Dong, and Dong is out.
Super standard spot, 20 big blinds, 10s versus jacks. There's really nothing you can do there. Run better, Darren, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty bad cooler for Monster Dong there.
Almost
Ryan, tell us
$52,000 for Monster Dong, Marco.
Yeah. Ryan, you were saying you were telling us.
I'm
sorry. Ryan was telling us a bit about him.
Tournament Poker Edge had made me an offer earlier, and I'd been thinking about joining them, but then Float the Turn, Jonathan Littleside. He's trying to get it back up and running and really vamping everything up. So he made me an offer, and I'm now his premier high-stakes guy.
He made you an offer you couldn't refuse?
Yeah, well, I'd like to be part of a smaller site and help it grow versus being part of a lot of big names. Like, I've got a lot of respect for the guys at Tournament Poker Edge. I feel that right now they've got the best stuff that's out on the web for tournament poker. So if you really want to become a good poker player, that's definitely the place to go for tournaments. I've got a lot of respect for the guys over there, but I think it'd be better for me to try to build my own name and reputation by helping build up a site versus joining an already competitive site.
I hear you. Well, good luck at Float the Turn.
Thank you. Definitely need it when you've got competition like you guys.
Bids. All right, so Darren's kind of cruising over this table right now. If I had to bet right now, I would be betting on Darren pretty heavy. I know he's won so many tourneys, and like he's just got such a massive stack right now. He's got like a third of the chips in play, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, I think a third about. It's a lot of chips.
Yeah, and he's also definitely has the best position right now, having a direct position on the 3 other large stacks.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And while I do think that Choppy's a very good player, he also tends to play pretty tight, straightforward for the most part. And I don't think that he's... Yeah, I've got a lot of experience with everyone at this table except for Psycho. And Psycho is the only player I've barely played with, which is why I said he's definitely a random. But, like, I know that Matt, like, tends to adjust, like, deeper in tournaments and stuff. but I don't think that he's really going to start getting out of line until they get down to like, 4 or 5 handed, and that's when he starts going to really vamp it up, or if he starts getting short stacked. Just because Artem having 10 bigs, I'm the Nuts having only 20, Nandor having only 20, like he'll end up getting put in a lot of really difficult spots if he tries to put pressure on any of the other big stacks, just because they have so much more leverage than he does.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think
that Artem's on his way out right now. Like, this guy's just, he's folding down to nothing.
Yeah, he's just gonna wait for some shove spots and keep trying to push it through. I'm the Nuts, you'll see, be very, very aggressive pretty much always, even with that shorter stack. Like earlier, we saw Shook raise an early position, and I'm the Nuts like just over min 3-bet him with around 21, 22 bigs. And I'd said down in chat that this is a great spot for him to be light.
Yeah.
Just because it looks like he's never ever folding, so he can be polarized there, and it's just optimal for him. Like Shookum either has to decide to either go with whatever his opening hand was, so hands like 9-10 suited or whatever, and take a gamble against I'm the Nuts 3-bet, and I'm the Nuts can just play optimally versus someone he gets shipped on. He doesn't have any hard decisions ever. Just puts on a lot of.
Agree with that, man. I'm the Nuts is it's crazy. You just never know what he has either. You can like never put him on a hand. So hard.
Yeah, he's pretty difficult to play versus. If he gets a stack, I really like his chances on this table. I mean, obviously, I would say that Darian Elias is top 3 like always. So.
Sorry, Ryan. Don't mean to interrupt. Question for you, Jeff. Bo Sizer wants to know. He says, Jeff, when is the tourney series you mentioned on Twitter a week ago, or a week or 2 ago, going up on TPE?
I think it's sometime this week, like tomorrow or the next day. I'm not really sure, but I know it's sometime this week. Should be really soon.
All right.
Yeah. So get on it.
Pretty even stacks, or maybe the most even at this table, going at it on this hand.
Yep. Was Psycho and EB and Darren flatted?
It seems like they're going to play pretty cautious towards each other as well. Like, maybe, I don't know what Darren's mindset is, but when I'm a huge stack in a tourney with another huge stack, I kind of try to focus more on pot control than anything else.
Definitely.
So, I mean, he might be like, even like a hand like 10s on that King Deuce 4 flop, he might check back just to keep pot small.
Yeah, I think I definitely think he can have a lot of mid-pocket pairs, but I also think he can easily have a king here. It's just like he has no reason to bet versus Psycho-In with any type of value hand. So I think
especially with how active Psycho-In's been playing on these pot-sized river bets and stuff. Like, he knows he's going to get paid on most of his value hands, on most of his hands in showdown. Psycho-In, though, I gotta give this guy credit. He's putting a pretty good deal of pressure on his opponents out of position.
Yeah, he's been playing really well.
Yeah, he's not really scared.
Like,
Sometimes, too.
I honestly don't really know if he has a value hand here. I don't think he does, and I think Darren should be calling here, which is why Darren's probably more putting it in his face.
It's sick, too, if Darren doesn't have a hand, and he's just like he's over Psycho-In. Maybe Darren could have like ace-5 or ace-3 and just be doing a crazy line.
No, I think I think he bets in position like all hands that have very little equity. So I'm fairly certain he just has a king here. Wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
He's going for thin value there. I don't really like that river raise at all, unless he thought that Psycho-In was just full of shit and he was trying to induce really late. That just seems to be a pretty thin spot.
Yeah, and we agree that he's never doing that as a bluff, right? He's never getting
that was definitely for value.
Yeah.
So he was either trying to induce a bluff or try to get hands like Queen 10, Queen Jack to call, which Psycho-In will definitely be value betting those, but I don't think Psycho-In's going to be like calling those kinds of hands very often, which is why he made it that big. I think like obviously he has to like snap call off a king there, but as you can see, like Psycho didn't even think about like raising it for value or anything. He just snapped off and was whatever.
I'm the Nuts is shoving, was that 15 bigs about?
Yeah, about that.
From the cutoff, his range is, his range I don't think is that wide here, just because most of the time he's been raise folding. But I mean, maybe 15 big blinds is like the stack where he sets his limit to raise folding at. So he could actually be wide.
He's definitely he probably doesn't have the top of his range here as well. He could just to be balanced, but I would likely say that
we're ruling out aces and kings.
Just say that he probably has everything in his range, just because he's going to want to be balanced here, and just because he also doesn't want to get like ICM screwed when like Paolo ships on light or whatever.
Would you rule out a hand like ace king here, or just like aces and kings, just like the very nut range?
I wouldn't even rule those out. I think he has everything there.
Okay.
Just because of ICM and because he wants to be balanced with these guys. Like the types of players that you really want to be balanced versus are really good regs, and they all, especially really good regs who you have history with. Like everyone knows that when I'm the Nuts like min raises there, like he always just has like the absolute nuts, like nothing else ever. So why would he ever min raise there?
Yeah,
it's not that bad of a spot to min raise as a bluff, but only if Artem has a lot more in chips. Like when with Artem being that short, like this is probably more towards the mid to top of his range, just because he always has to call Artem.
Have you played with Artem before? Does he usually fold down like this?
I've played with him a bit. I'm actually logging on to Stars right now so I can see what my notes are on everyone.
All right.
Like, he's literally been folding down, and I mean now he has 4 to 5 big blinds, whatever, 8 big blinds. Standard spot for jacks versus ace king. Darren binks the ace on the river. It's a lot of pain for Ryan the Nuts, I gotta say.
That was pretty tilting for him, especially with Artem having that kind of stack.
Yeah, I mean that jump right. That's a 30K jump right there. Oh my god. I guess Artem run hotter, man. 50K for not playing a hand.
Yeah, I have Artem marked as a very bad reg, so.
Okay. Wow. So Chris Oliver gets 70K for his efforts. How long has the tournament been running? 28 hours?
Well, it paused for a while. It probably paused for 12 minutes.
So let's say 16 hours. So 71K.
Not a bad hourly. I would take it.
Yeah,
it's like
I'm doing it right now. 72K divided by 16. Nice little $4,500 an hour.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Marco, that's what they pay you at QuadJacks, right? $4,500 an hour?
You know, in fact, I'm torn between continuing with QuadJacks or becoming an MTT regular, in the vein of I'm the Nuts or Artem or whoever it is we might be targeting here.
Apparently, Deep just said that Artem is supposed to be very, very good and very underrated. I mean, that could be true. I would assume, like, whatever Deep is saying about a player's skill, that it's definitely going to be a very good judgment. So, I guess I've way underjudged Artem's skill as a player.
You know, it depends on the situation, too, because I think some players are horrible sometimes, and they turn out to be really good, really big winners, and they've either played a couple hands terrible, or they're just having an off day. I mean, like, I'm sure you've had terrible days as well. You know, I've had,
this would make a lot of sense, too. Apparently, Artem plays up to 100K live, so he's more of a live player than an online guy, which is why I would have him marked as, like, a bad reg online.
All right, I can see that.
Just
I mean,
because they're entirely different beats.
Oh yeah, live and online is incredibly different. It's just so amazing too how like people say it and stuff, but until you get deep in a live tournament, it's just so much different than online. Just the dynamics, everything is just way different.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that being good at both or trying to be good at both definitely improves your game for both as well. Like Black Friday actually helped out my game immensely by forcing me to play live. It really helped me adjust how I think for certain kinds of players and in certain kinds of situations.
Definitely does make you better. So Psychoin and Darren are getting into it again. Psychoin is
he really loves that 80% river bet.
Yeah,
this one's more like 70-ish.
I mean, it seems like I would want to play a lot of these guys are shallow stacked, but I wouldn't mind playing like with Darren's stack. I wouldn't mind playing like a heavy draw hand with him because I know that when I do hit, Cyclone is just gonna pile the river every time, you know. Yeah, and I think Darren could get away with like a check raise now for a lot of value on the river versus Cyclone. Because he showed up, he check raised him. Well, he didn't check raise him, but
yeah, with that ace queen.
All right, so Artem's got it in right now. He's got like 10 outs.
Oh,
and then
got there.
Bigs. Artem wins a nice flip to get back to 15 big blinds, 15-ish. Run hot.
I think this play will really ramp up a lot once Nandor and Artem either both double or like both bust.
I agree, and look, you can see how it's really affected Shookum's stack too. Like Shookum has Darren to his left, and he has 2 short stacks for ICM. Like he is.
Yeah, he's in a terrible spot.
Oh my god, I would hate life from that spot.
Yeah, that's where I play like 6-6 and don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Then again, though, I am happy to be at the final table of the 10K.
Definitely.
So I don't really feel that bad for him. What does Choppy have? 36 bigs?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever light here.
Yeah. The thing is, though, Choppy knows he's never getting 3-bet by Nandor or Artem.
Yeah, or he pretty rarely is. Nandor can't shove that wide, and Artem has been so nitty anyways.
Huh.
Probably not that bad of a spot to open. I just don't really think that he is, especially after losing the flip lately.
And Paolo does 3-bet him to about just under just over 2 times his bet. 2.5 times his bet, actually.
Yep.
What do you think about his sizing here? I mean, what does it give? What does Choppy get by 4-betting here if he 4-bet jams? There's 100K in the pot and he's got 376 behind. He's getting like 4-1 on the jam.
Choppy can. I think if Choppy 4-bet jams, that he hasn't had like Ace Queen or Ace Jack, Ace King maybe, King
right,
Queen.
And he does elect to jam on Paolo and he folds. So
I think when he's light or when he's like super nutted, that he's going to make it smaller. So he'll like make it like 110,000 or whatever. Try to induce Paolo or just try to get Paolo to fold. Like I'm very certain that Choppy there had like Ace Queen, Ace Jack, or King Queen, like exactly those.
And I mean, he did. He must have had some good hand there. He did. I don't think Choppy's ever just jamming in his stack with Artem and Nandor to those 2 guys. Like he definitely had a hand for value there. So the next payout is 100K, and then after that it goes up by about 30K increments for 2 levels. 2 payouts.
It doesn't really jump until the jump between 4th to 5th, which is like 75,000.
Yeah, that's heaps.
And
still, it's so crazy, You never get like this is such a massive tournament for online players. Like you never get these type of payout jumps ever in any other tournament. I mean, aside from when it's like top 3 in like the Sunday Million or something. But even still, like these are bigger. It's crazy.
I definitely agreed with MJW that was a great spot for Paolo to be light.
How about Billy Wallback stone bubbling this? 46 when 45 pays. It's got to be
I'd seen that earlier. That's pretty brutal.
Bubble with stone bubbling at 10K? Doesn't get much worse than that. I guess stone bubbling the 1 drop would be the worst. Artem is getting a little more active now. Maybe he's built up a pretty tight image and now he's using it. Or maybe he's just woken up a couple hands in a row.
Probably just woken up.
This is I would raise any 2 cards from Choppy's position here.
Yeah, especially with how tight Nandor and Artem have been. You really don't need a hand there.
No, yeah, it's deuce 3, offsuit, whatever. It's good enough.
Although both of them should realize that they don't have like that much ICM here, considering like what the jumps are and the fact that they're both short stacks. Like both of them should be shoving really, really wide there, unless they think choppy is an opening light. So it can be like a really awkward spot to be in for both of them. In fact, even for choppy and the button, because you don't know what level Nandor and Artem are going to be on as far as how wide they're willing to ship it, and the answer as to what level you're on there as well.
I'm pretty sure though that Nandor and Artem are just knitting it up though.
Yeah, I would say so as well, especially at this kind of final table.
All right, Artem min raises. You think he would ever min raise fold here?
He should be. I don't know if he is. If Deep says he's really good, then he definitely is.
Shookum is probably the best steal spot on the table right now, just because of where he's at. His stack too. I mean, Shookum just has to hope that Darren stacks off to someone. That's like his only hope right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or he wakes up. Psychoan, though, is actually now, he's definitely the dominating force at this table. Although Darren's still really deep, 80 bigs.
I really like Paolo's spot here. I think as they get shorter and shorter handed, you'll see Paolo really start to put a lot of pressure on Psychoan and build up.
Yeah. Are any of these guys head-up players? You know?
I don't think any of them are. I have, Shookum, Paolo, Choppy, Nandor. They're all like 100% MTT regs. I don't know if any of them grind other stuff.
Okay. Psychoan open for a min raise standard. Darren 3-bet him to just under 3 times his open. And now Psychoan is 4-bet. And this is a good spot to... I would say this is a good spot to 4-bet, but I think that Darren is kind of tight here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Darren doesn't 3-bet that light there. Just because...
I don't think Darren will be 3-betting light here either. So I'm pretty sure.
All right, Darren's putting 5-bet. Darren's putting the 5-bet where if Psychoan calls, Darren has a pot-sized bet on the flop to just jam with, and I would assume that would happen. But Darren has put in a quarter of his stack. Or over a quarter. He's put in 30% of his stack.
This is either going to be a really disgusting cooler, or Psychoan's going to punt to Darren. Yeah, I really agree that Darren 3-betting out of position there versus kind of players. You just don't want to be late versus him.
Do you like Darren's sizing too?
Yeah, I like
Psychoan's jam. Yep.
This is either a sick cooler or.
But I don't even know if that's that sick of a cooler.
I don't like Psychoan's 4-bet.
I don't either. It is aces versus queen, but they're both in a cash. I mean, they're 80 big blinds deep. They're not. It's not like they're shallow.
No.
But yeah, Darren holds his aces run hotter.
Yeah, and that's definitely Psychoan's inexperience floating there. I think most regs would just flat the queens there. Anyway.
You have so much value in queens just by flatting too.
And I don't think Darren's going to be light there ever. Queen still should crush his 3-betting for value range there, which is what's important. I think when Darren goes to 5-bet and deuce, that he's don't like Darren's call at all.
Yeah, just because of how tight Nandor's been playing. But I mean, he does have to assume he has at least 30% equity versus any hand. Obviously, he didn't that time when he had 8% equity. But Darren might also think that even if Nandor doubles, he doesn't really care because
he probably just didn't care at all.
Yeah, he's not a threat at all. So even as long as he doesn't double up or as long as he doesn't donate to Paolo, Choppy, or Shookum, he's all right. Shookum is just he's in a lot of pain right now. He needed Psycho when they hit a queen right there, I'll tell you that much.
I guess the call isn't that bad. I mean, even if I give Nandor a pretty tight range, he still has like 38% or whatever, which is fine. There's no way he cares about losing that amount, really.
Sick though how Nandor does ship it on him and does have aces. Like we haven't seen him show up with anything but aces. That was a huge mistake from Cyclone. I mean, just look at like his edge on the table with his stack. You know, like you don't even if Darren has ace king there, like you should still never be getting it in.
Yeah, I really dislike him 4-bet trying to induce bluffs and whatever. I mean, but like as I said earlier, you know, Cyclone's just a random who banked the Sunday Major and a random running good to get here. You know, that was just more some of his inexperience, really.
Good for the game, though.
Yes, it was. But you know, we're trying to be nice. You know, you don't want to be mean to the people you're commentating on.
Pretty big pot here between Choppy and Paolo. Paolo's putting it in position. I don't. It's hard to put these guys on ranges. So Paolo is making a bet of just over half the pot, and he's betting a third of Choppy stack, and he has the nuts for the most part. So Paolo just that was huge for Paolo. That was a really big pot for him to win. Choppy is down to 20 bigs, and wow, that was a huge pot for Paolo. Well played.
I actually think Paolo got really lucky there. I'm pretty sure Choppy had. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Choppy had king, queen, or ace, king.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? What else would he call it?
Yeah, and there's like no other hand really that he gets past the flop with that aren't those two.
And so Paolo just opened up blind versus shook him, and shook him 3-bet him. I guess you have to give Shookham credit there because he's been playing so tight, and that does seem like a good spot for Paolo to raise light just based on the stacks around Shookham.
Also, Shookham's stack is like a perfect 4-bet effective stack for like Paolo, which you know Shookham, like they both should know that, and you know Shookham just shouldn't ever really be like there.
I don't think there's any need for Paolo to be messing around right now either. He's just got such a great spot on the table. I mean, he's the only inexperienced guy, or that we think is inexperienced psycho, and is to his direct right, and he's got a juicy stack. So like 50 bigs, like he wants to be playing pots with psycho and not with Shook.
And he doesn't want to make a big mistake versus a very good player to his direct left and give him more leverage.
So maybe that's even a spot for Shookham to 3-bet any too, you know, if you go into that depth. But I don't know if like on the fly you can think like that because the hands happen so quickly. But I mean, it does seem like an any 2 spot for Shookham.
If he really thinks that Paolo thinks, essentially they have to both realize that it's a great 4-bet spot, and that Paolo won't take it because he thinks Shookham feels that. So if he has to realize that Shookham is like believes that he's going to 4-bet bluff down a lot, and thus he's only going to be like, thus he's like rarely or never going to be like there.
The total level.
I think they are both. Yeah, which levels are they on? And I think they definitely will both be on that level. I mean, I assume they both have a lot of history with each other. I mean, I have tons and tons of histories with them. And the top of my games are probably the mid to lower end of their games. So I'm sure they have a lot of history. This is a great spot for Nandor to be light.
Yeah, it is, but I don't think Nandor is because I
don't think he is either.
Yeah, and Paolo just knows that Nandor's been playing way too tight to really mess around.
Yeah.
Let's see if the next time Psycho opens, if Paolo just flats. I wouldn't doubt it. Artem should be shoving here. So many hands.
Yeah, pretty wide range. He's about 15 big, so it's
yeah, and he does
around 40% of hands.
So what do you think Paolo needs to call there? Any pocket pair above fives?
Twos and fives have pretty much the exact same equity there, depending on how properly Artem's shoving. And like, if you think he should call with deuces with fives, which I think he should, then he should be calling with deuces as well. But a lot of players just don't really like doing so. So like hands like I would call there definitely with like ace-7 suited, ace-8 off, like full pocket pairs, and then even hands like king-10 suited, king-jack off, and even like queen-jack suited should be a call there versus a lot of regulars. But I probably wouldn't make it at say any kind of big final table, even though it was like a quarter my stack. I'd make that like mid stages of a tournament or whatever.
All right, and Paolo's 3-betting Psycho in. It's not a bad spot for Darren to 4-bet. I don't think. I think it's like if Darren makes it like 150K right here, or just a bet where it's putting pressure on, it's going to make up a huge size of Paolo or Psycho and stack. I
don't think Paolo's going to be light here. Just because everyone knows that Psycho in is, playing pretty psycho, and that he's willing to get very crazy. And, this is just, such an obvious spot for Paolo to be light that even Shookum's going to be willing to, 4-bet rip it in light. And Paolo should realize, how deep Shookum is effective. And, I personally would never, ever, ever be light here.
Darren has elected to 3-bet it to about 140K, a little over, 142K. So I think that Psycho can never flat. I think unless he has I don't even think he should flat ever. It does put Psycho in a tough spot. Can Paolo ever flat this, or does it have to be a 5-bet fold?
I'd just 5-bet call it off, or even just 5-bet rip it, depending on what I had.
All right. Well, that was a nice pot for Darren. Marco, are we going on break for 5 minutes?
I think we're going to break right now. And how are you guys doing?
Perfect.
Good.
Yeah, feeling okay. Yeah. I think you guys are both doing a fantastic job. I mean, I'm following along. I could not be more pleased, and I'm just very. What is it that Paolo just said?
Easiest call ever.
Okay.
Why I don't think Paolo should be light there. Because, if I'm Shookum, I'm shoving there a shitload if I think that Paolo isn't, all that good, or if I think he's too aggressive there. If I think he's too aggressive in this kind of dynamic, so button versus mid to late position, then, I'm just 4-bet ripping everything I have there as Shookum. He's one of the shorter stacks. That's a great addition to a stack. It's almost a third. And I just wouldn't be shoving the bottom 20 to 30% of hands. I'd be shoving top 70%, because anything you get called by, you have 30% equity anyways. So you're almost getting proper CEV when you do get called, as long as they don't have queens plus or whatever.
You are listening to and watching and listening to QuadJacks TV. We're showing the final table of WCOOP event number 22, the 10K No Limit Hold'em High Roller. What is it now? We're 7-handed, and the commentators are Jeff Romano, Hurricane Jeff, and Ryan Laplante. Is that how we would pronounce it, Ryan? AKA Potential. Aha. A little bit of a portmanteau there, huh? I got a question for you guys. Does either of you like football?
As in American football?
American football, yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a decent bit.
What's that, Marco?
Do you like football, Jeff?
Well, I love it, but I hate it because I tend to bet it pretty heavy, and that's never a good thing.
Well, listen, Jeff. How very convenient that you should bring that up. Because if you're looking for educated and insightful and interesting and useful sports betting commentary, I have just the thing for you. I was just going to say that some of you may not be aware, or you might be aware, that QuadJacks also has a sports betting component to it. We write about sports betting. We produce sports betting content. Our resident handicapper, Fairway J, writes a lot about handicapping. It's what he does for a living, and he writes about football. And today's Monday, so we were just going to put out the latest post. I'm actually putting the link in chat right now, or you can go to QuadJacks.com, and you will find it pretty much there on the main page. It's the latest post. He's tonight, I believe we can look forward to the Ravens versus the Bengals.
Yep.
And then the Raiders versus the Chargers. So Jay has written very eloquently and very informatively about both games. So if those are games you were looking to either just watch or bet on, look at that post. It's very interesting. Jay writes very well, and let us know what you think.
I think there's like a 95% chance I bet both these games. It's pretty hard to do.
What's that? There's a 95% chance you bet both these games?
Yeah. I mean, first Monday night football games. It's hard not to.
Well, listen. How about this, Jeff? I'll be very interested. Right now, we're doing the commentary, but I'll be very interested to later to find out how your evaluations of the teams square up against Jay's. So make sure to let me know. And you can follow, like I said earlier, we're very much about interactivity here at QuadJacks. So you can follow Jay on Twitter. There's his handle right there in chat. I'm putting it @FairwayJ. Tweet at him. What's that?
I said perfect.
Yeah, tweet at him, ask him questions. He loves that stuff. He loves talking about this stuff. Check out the post, QuadJacks Sports. I put the link in chat again, and follow him on Twitter. And follow our great commentators on Twitter. I couldn't be happier or more grateful, guys. At Hurricane Jeff, Hurricane with a 1 instead of an I, and 2 R's. There we go. At Hurricane Jeff. And Ryan, Potential MN. What's the MN stand for?
It stands for Minnesota, state that I grew up in.
I see. Do you miss it?
Yeah, it's a very nice state. It's very pretty. Lots of woods, lots of like fishing and hunting, and 4-wheeling, snowmobiling. It's very like backwater and small town, and very pretty all year round.
All right. Well, listen, guys. I was hoping to give you a bit of a break. I can't, because it looks like it took me 5 minutes to get through that whole QuadJacks Sports promo. But here we are. We're back. Still 7-handed here at the high roller on Pokerstars. So can we just kind of? Oh, here we go. All in by Choppy. No, nothing. It looks like I hijacked the commentary from you guys.
Yeah.
Can we take a look at, again, just even for my own benefit, I guess. Who are the short stacks? Who are the new leaders? And what do you make of it going forward?
All right, Choppy and Artem both have under 20 big blinds. Nandor is right on the 20 big blind level. Shookum is about 25-ish. So those 5 should be on their way out soon, or at least until one of them doubles. Maybe not on their way out, but they should be playing pretty active. Darren is running over the table right now with, I think he has about half the chips in play. Yeah, it looks to be just under half the chips. And Paolo is a close second. This is actually turning out to be the Paolo versus Darren, I think. That's my predictions for the final 2. And not just because they're first and second in chips, but I really think that the way they've been approached this final table, Paolo has been playing aggressive but not over-aggressive, and Darren has been playing aggressive and running like God as well, so I can see Paolo and Darren getting head up. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. They're both playing very, very well. They're both applying a lot of pressure, and they both got the big stacks. It's kind of almost a gimme for them as long as they don't, slip up or get Cool Alert a lot. Like, I'd be very, very surprised if he doesn't go top 2.
So Darren opens up under the gun with the master stack on Shookum's big blind, and Shookum 3-bets him small. I think Shookum was pretty small there. I mean, sorry, pretty strong there. I think he has to be, given his stack. But it is, every time Shookum takes chips from Darren Elias, it really helps him out, because Darren is his biggest enemy right now, being directly on his left. And they're going at it blind versus blind right now. Shookum opened up for 2.5x. And the flop has come ace high, pretty dry flop, and Shookum leads and then checks turn. I think Shookum's pretty strong here. I don't think Darren is very strong at all. I think Shookum might be trying to check shove this turn, and Darren just checks back too. So Darren may have known that. Darren could have a hand like 6-7, or maybe even like 8-7.
I think Darren more has weak value here, so maybe like a bear 8 or something like that.
Yeah. So Shookum does lead the river, and Darren does fold. Not too big of a pot. Not too big of a pot for Darren, but definitely a big pot for Shookum. I mean, Shookum's trying to take whatever he can get right now, just because he doesn't really have many spots to open.
Yeah, that was definitely an important pot for Shookum.
Darren should be playing this pot 100% of the time. Have you ever taken the strategy of limping buttons versus 220 big blind stacks in the small and big blind?
Especially if I think that they're very aggressive or will react passively to my limp, or a lot of people, when you limp the button, like the small blind will just complete a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll go in position 3-handed, and so like I'll do it with hands that are like close to shoves but like aren't. So in that kind of situation,
Queen 9 suited or something.
No,
okay.
Like Queen 9 suited is like a clear shove.
You would just shove though? You would...
Yeah. No, I would just shove hands like that. Like you'd have to. I really like limping spots like that, like heads up, like 25 bigs deep, or like even like I'd limp Queen 9 suited there, like 25 bigs deep, just because you can't really like. While it might be plus EV to shove it, it's like near the bottom of an optimal shove chart range.
Okay.
So what you just do is you can just limp it, and especially like a 25 big stack is a great stack to 3-bet bluff with. And Palo opens and takes it down.
And it's a great stack to play against post flop. Like it's so hard to play a post flop with those 20 to 30 big blind stack.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very difficult.
So I do like the limp. That's what I was saying. I was going to say that would have been a good spot for Darren to limp the button. But I guess if he knows that Nandor is just giving up so many hands, he could raise any 2 as well.
Yeah. And MJW made another great point, was that people don't really like to fight over limped pots, which is very true.
I agree, because it's a smaller pot.
Take it down pretty quickly.
Yeah, a smaller pot means that people are going to play less hands in it, yeah. So Nandor's opening up with 20 bigs. I'm expecting him to be strong here. He really just hasn't raised folded much. He really just hasn't much at all, to be honest. Shookum's a good stack to raise against.
It's definitely another good spot for him to be live, but he just never, ever is, I don't think.
Yeah.
So he's been playing at this final table.
And recently, Psycho has been playing a little bit tighter. So he could, he might be changing gears. After he lost that the Queens to Aces hand, he really
the Queens to Aces, that would tilt like pretty much everyone. I think almost everyone would shut down a bit after that, or go into spew mode.
So Shookum might know that, and he might be 3-betting light here. It seems that everyone is trying to 3-bet Psycho because I think he's the weakest player.
Yeah, definitely. Psycho is clearly the weakest player.
And I think Psycho just clicked it back, it looks like.
Looks like that.
Yeah,
and you're right. Shookum was thinking the same thing we were, that Psycho was shutting down a bit. It's still a great spot to 3-bet light. You don't really want to 3-bet light there versus players who are hyper-aggressive or versus like extreme nits. Psycho, while he's definitely shutting down, he's probably going to be shutting down to the point where he's just raise folding a lot versus either raise calling a lot or raise 4-betting a lot.
Yeah. So Artem's big blind right now. I would expect a lot of players to raise light here. Shookum, I don't think is that light though. He's just lost like 2 pots in a row, and he has Darren to his immediate left. I really don't think Shookum's that light right here. It gets through. So if you were Darren right now, you would be, who would you be 3-betting? Just Paolo mostly?
Yeah, I'd definitely be putting the most pressure onto Paolo and Psycho and Still.
Yeah.
Just because Paolo, he has so much ICM pressure, especially with how short effective now. You have 3 stacks that are getting pretty short effective, and those jumps are starting to get pretty big.
Yeah, so Paolo should actually be playing on the tighter side as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure Paolo is right now playing pretty tight.
So Artem is tanking from the small blind versus Darren's standard 2x open, and Psycho gives it up. Darren's picking some pretty good spots right now, I gotta say. I would expect him to open right here as well. And he does just that. This is like the nut spot to open on Paolo's big blind.
Yeah, this is another great spot to open. It's not like Artem's ever 3-bet shoving on you light or anything.
Yeah.
You have no big backs behind you.
I think I think he has to fold under the gun too. He can't really bluff here just because he's opened the last 2 hands. People are going to give him less credit for opening a 3rd in a row.
Well, I actually think that it goes the opposite way. Like when you open like 2 hands in a row, the second hand it could be anything really. And then for most regulars, they're aware that everyone's aware that they've just opened 2 in a row. So that 3rd time, they tend to be tighter than normal. Thus, you can do it.
Fair enough. I definitely see that logic. I agree with it.
It all it all comes down to who you're playing versus and everything.
Yeah. Nandor opened shove 20 bigs with 8s, and Shookum called him. Classic flip, ace queen versus 8s. And Shookum run worse in life right now, man. He loses the massive flip. Do you like that call with ace queen?
I was actually thinking about it, and
I think versus anyone else, it would be.
I would say ace queen. There's definitely the exact bottom of my range. I wouldn't call ace jack versus Nandor. Like maybe ace jack suited, ace queen off, and like
yeah. I think I pulled ace queen there just because A, because of Artem's stack, and B, because Nandor just has the only hand Nandor showed up with was pocket aces. But then again, like, Shookum's in a really bad spot on the table right now. Like, it's just so hard for him to fold a hand like that.
Yeah. And I don't think that Nandor's open shipping ace king there, and I don't really think he's open shipping like queens plus really. Just because of where it was that effective, which is why I'm still calling off ace queen. Like, I do realize that it's pretty close ICM, but it's not like we're ever dominated. So we do have a lot of equity versus Nandor's shipping range, probably something like 60%. So you think
it's almost always middle pairs or ace jack suited or something like that?
Yeah, or hands like that. So we just like call it off and hate life and hope that we either win the flip or, don't get sucked out on. I do agree that it's a really bad ICM spot, and Nandor isn't going to be like, shoving bad hands there or whatever, but I don't think he's open shoving the top of his range. Just because.
So if you knew that Nandor had pocket 8s there, would you fold ace queen?
Yes.
All right. So Darren opens and Choppy shoves a standard 20 big blind stack.
Gets very unlucky. Yeah, that was another bad cooler.
Yeah, Darren's just coolering the whole table, but still playing sick. And now we're 5-handed, 6-handed. Sorry. Pretty much 5-handed because
up that ladder.
Shookum's shoving 5 big blinds under the gun with ace 7. Gets called by king 9 suited.
Really just like the king 9 call, and he doubles up.
I'm happy for Shookum. He's at a tough table. Deserves to win that one at least. So the next payout is going to be a measly 130K. No big deal.
Yeah. the payout for those jumps has still been pretty flat. The next payout jump's only 39 as well. The
fourth is when it gets huge, right?
Yeah, fifth to fourth, that's when it starts to get really big, and that's when ICM really, really starts to get bad for these guys.
A lot of times, though, like, I don't know with these players, but almost every other tourney in this position, they would make a deal 3-handed, maybe even 4-handed. But I don't know with Darren Elias and Paolo and them. Like these guys are pretty accomplished.
I don't think. Yeah, Darren has some really sick results, and with that kind of stack, like I wouldn't be wanting to chop. Like he has about half the chips in play right now.
Normally, I would say, all right. So Psycho-In's opened up, and I'd normally say that Psycho-In would be, or that Darren would be light here, but he's made such a massive bet that I think he was strong. Like that was way over his standard 3-bet sizing, even though it was out of position. So I think he was a little bit stronger there. I think he was trying to give Psycho-In better odds to 4-bet.
The last time that he 3-bet out of position, though, he made it smaller and he had aces. And I think that, like, in those kinds of situations, especially versus worse players or whatever who are capable of 4-betting, like, that I'd rather make it bigger. I had a similar spot up here earlier where, like, me versus another reg, and I 4-bet light out of position, and I made it a pretty standard spot here. I made it a lot larger to induce more fold.
Yeah. So Psycho-In has just got it in, Jacks versus Ace-Queen, and he wins the flip. Artem, good game. Although I don't think Artem played very good at this final table. And now we're up to 5 people. 5th place paying out 170K. And 4th place paying out 245K
more, yeah, 245.
So this is the huge jump we were talking about earlier. And Darren is immediately 3-bet. I think he knows this. He's going to 3-bet call it off against Shookum if Shookum does jam. Yeah. But he doesn't. I would expect Darren to open up every single pot right now and 3-bet every single hand.
Yeah, he really should be open. He really should be just like going to town right now.
Yeah, and Darren does just that. He's opened up another hand, just standard min raise, and Psycho-In's kind of tanking now from the small blind, and just flats. Psycho-In could be flatting a strong hand here, like Ace-Queen or something, because he doesn't want to play a massive pot with his chip stack. What else do you think he could be flatting?
I think Psycho-In's the type of player who would like 3-bet Ace-Queen here, but I think he's pretty likely to flat hands like Ace-10, Ace-9, King-Queen, King-Jack, King-10 suited, King-9 suited.
Most of his King combos.
Yeah.
So
like, I think if he hits this, he has like a very weak value hand that's mostly just a bluff catcher.
So like, if you had a hand like Ace-Jack in his spot, what would you do?
Honestly,
would you 3 Ace-Jack?
No, I might do it as a bluff if I think I've got the right kind of image, which I really don't think he does here. So for the most part, I just flat it.
Okay, so Psycho-In checked the flop, and Darren led about, was it a 3rd pot? I didn't see how much. But Psycho-In called, and then the turn is a blank, and it went check, check. And I think this is actually a pretty big river card. Comes to offsuit queen. It does make a lot of king combos, and it could make a couple. I mean, Jack 10 gets there too, but I don't know.
I think Psycho-In has a bear king here.
Yeah, I don't know how many times Darren has Jack 10. If Darren did have, all right, so if Darren does have a good hand for value here, like a 2-pair or a Jack 10, you should be betting close to pot, right?
I'd probably like overpot it. Yeah, I'd like so near pot or overpot. I'd go like 250,000 or something weird like that.
He bets 3/4 pot, and Psycho-In folds. And Psycho-In really just took the weakest possible line there. Like throughout the whole hand, he just check called and check folded. Like he never bet once, which I think is pretty weak. And Darren opens up again under the gun. Like I said, or like we were saying, I think Darren's going to be 3-bet opening every single hand. I honestly don't know what he's not going to be raising with. And Shookum shoves blind versus blind.
Cooler with the suck ass and the hold. Yeah, very standard by both of them.
And I don't really think that really hurts Darren in any way. It may actually help, which is weird to say, but I mean, the ICM precedent's more.
It only hurts him in the fact that, like, he can't run over the table quite as hard. Like, that would have helped, like, it would have been better, honestly, for him if they just chopped it.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe he could have found, I mean, I know Ace-9 is way ahead, but maybe he could have found a fold there just because he knows he's going to be able to run over the table on this ICM jump.
I mean, Shookum hasn't grown that much. Like I know you're saying that, but I still think with Shickham still having the kind of stack that he does, that he can still just keep pounding away at everyone else.
Okay. He has shut down a bit. He hasn't raised the last 2 hands. He's folded 2 hands in a row, ladies and gentlemen.
He's turning into a net.
He's setting up that tight image. Paolo opens on his big blind. See if Darren 3-bets or folds here. Paolo's sitting, yeah, he just folds. Paolo's sitting with what, like 40 bigs? 40 big blinds? 4,000, a little more. I can't even do math at this point. So Shookham opens up his button with a 24 big blind stack. I don't know if this is a good spot for Darren to 3-bet. He's elected to fold, and Nandor folds as well. I think he knows that Darren knows that Nandor is a huge nit, and he knows that Shookham knows that. So Shookham should be raising light, but he knows that Darren will 3-bet him because he knows Nandor is such a nit. So I think Shookham's actually stronger there.
Yeah, I would say that he generally is there too as well.
And also Darren, I mean, they're just way better spots for Darren just to he should be opening here every time as well.
Yeah, he should be opening here always. Nandor really hasn't opened up at all in any way, shape, or form.
But he does fold. And
Paolo's not going to get crazy out of position or anything like that.
No.
Realize how good of a spot he's in. If anything, he's just going to I don't expect Paolo to fold there very often. I'd only expect Paolo to fold the bottom 20% of hands. Do 7 off, 3-7 off, or 7 off. And you can even make arguments that Paolo shouldn't be folding those and just should keep applying pressure to fight going.
I agree.
Shookham should be shoving a lot here. I don't think Psychoin's really going to shut down on button or anything like that for fear of getting 3-bet shoved on. He has about 24.
And he is the bottom stack too.
Yeah.
Alright, maybe Paolo knows that. Alright, so Paolo's been, wow. Shookham cold 4s.
Snap cold 4s. Yeah.
Wow. No, put a king out there for him. Put a king out there.
That's brutal.
Wow, that's a lot of pain right there. So Paolo 3-bets in, Shookham cold 4s with ace-10, and Paolo's kings get out strong.
That's also very standard by everybody. I didn't think Paolo was going to be light there either.
That's a lot.
Quite a shame for Paolo there. Hey guys, I've got a little gift for you.
Yeah?
What's that?
You guys are doing great. It's not like you need any more enhancement, but I thought it would be nice to bring on Timex at this point. Mike McDonald, who is ready to join us. Beam him up, Zikta, if you will.
Giddy up.
Mike?
What's up?
Hello, Mike. Okay, one at a time. Let me make the introductions. Mike McDonald, Timex, welcome back to QuadJacks and to QuadJacks TV. It's so great to have you. How are you feeling?
Really good. It's good to be on the show. I'm glad you guys gave me this opportunity.
No, we're very glad that you decided to take it up. Now, you know Jeff Romano and Ryan Laplante?
Yep.
Excellent. So there shall be nothing further there. All right, so Mike, I'm not sure how much you may have been watching this tournament today, but tell us, obviously our other two commentators have been talking about it all day. What have you seen? Has anything stuck out to you? Who do you like that's left?
Yeah, as far as the players that are left, a lot of the guys whose games I'm most familiar with are players who have lost out. I know that in the last, say, final 3 tables, they were, in my opinion, a lot of the best tournament players in the world. And a lot of these guys, I don't know them that well, but I would say between, looking at, say between 25th and 21st, there went 5 of the best players in the field. A bunch of other really good players are left, and I don't know much about Psychoin's game, Nandor's game, or Shookham's game. I think Paolo's always been good when I've played with him, and I think Darren Elias is extremely good. So I would say that, this is definitely a tough final 5, but I think if you looked at the final 3 tables, you could have potentially had, a final 5 that has a lot of the absolute best players and a lot of the guys G Boros and
Rock, the Toilet, Twirl Pro. Grade 31, Scammies, bust those soon, bet you don't bet.
Yeah, so many just incredible players. I'm the nuts. Like, so many incredible players got deep in this tournament, which is kind of expected when it's about the toughest online tournament of the year. And I would say that, I don't know that many of the players' games really well. I haven't seen anyone making many mistakes, but this has been a really interesting tournament to watch.
Did you see the hand where Psycho and got in with Darren with queens against aces?
Yeah, I saw that hand. It was a pretty interesting hand. It was half the chips in play. I imagine that if someone, it wouldn't surprise me if queens aren't necessarily supposed to get it in there, but at the same time, it's a spot where it's so good for it's so good for Psycho to be 4-betting that it makes sense for Darren Elias to not be 3-betting as much. So I honestly don't hate just flatting a 3-bet in his shoes. Like, once you 4-bet, it's so likely the guy could be light 5-betting that I think you have to get it in. But I think that is a spot where when you throw in how big of a pot it ends up being, just calling the 3-bet isn't terrible unless you think the guy is going to be 5-bet calling like 10s or something, which I think is probably not happening that often.
Yeah, Jeff.
I wanted to know your opinion on that. I agree with you. I think 3-bet flatting is too. And you are also playing queens in position. Like, that's a good thing, right? I mean, it can't be that bad.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not really folding on any boards. You have a hand that's decently well disguised. You have a hand where there are going to be a lot of boards where it's just going to look so full of shit. If he has 10s and it's an overpair, he's just going to assume it's almost impossible for you to have him beat. And there are just going to be a lot of spots where you can put it in higher equity post flop. I remember a pretty similar hand that happened, that I discussed a lot with Galen Hall, and it was at the final table of the €25,000 buy-in in Madrid, back when they had the EPT championships in Madrid. And there was a hand where 9-handed at a final table, he had a quarter of the chips, and Benny Spindler had a third of the chips or something along those lines. And I think it was Benny Spindler, maybe it was Tobias Frankenmeyer, one of the two. And basically he just got in some giant pre-flop raising war, queens into aces, and it was just, a major ICM suicide where, even though the guy has kings or aces a small percent of the time, it's still something where you still get a ton of value post-flop by calling a hand like that, and then you don't ever risk putting, half the chips in play as a 4-to-1 dog, which is going to be, given that the money goes in, it's going to be fairly likely that they have kings or aces.
Or even ace-king, in which case it's still bad.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. If let's just say hypothetically with those stack sizes, you raise queens and he rips it for 100 big blinds with ace-king, it's just such an easy fold with queens, even though you're a favorite, just because of the, the amount to which, because it's just so much sweeter to, coast to third for 100K than get 7th for 100K or something like that.
Plus, with your base check, you have so much leverage, you don't really want to give that away.
I think that's where a lot of live players have an edge over an online player. Sometimes online players see hands like ace, king, and queens, and they just instantly get it in, whereas the live player play a little bit nittier and just give it up sometimes. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's kind of that's kind of like a double-edged sword in the sense that you look at a lot of those guys who have styles that work extremely well online that may not work as well live, like someone like a Chris Oliver, and then you look at his online results and see that he just dummies all the live pros. Like someone like Chris Oliver, he'll get deep in every big deep stack tournament like this that runs, and I think that it's a lot of that willingness to just fight for every pot that some of the live pros like myself might be missing out on. So I think that it's definitely it can go both ways. I think
I agree.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to each style, I guess.
So Paolo did just double versus Darren. Was it ace king versus ace six?
Yeah, pretty standard spot and cooler.
Yeah, it did seem pretty standard. Darren knows that Paolo was the bottom stack, and he pretty much has nothing to lose by gambling. So he did call him light with ace six.
No, he 3-bet shoved, and Paolo raise called button, which is why it's super standard. Yeah. Especially with his opening stack size. If I'm Darren, I'm shoving a lot worse than a6, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And don't really expect to get called all that often.
Yeah, it seems like definitely a pretty standard spot overall.
So Neander still opening.
Say that once more.
I said Darren's still opening a lot. Do you like his open under the gun here as a steal, or should it just be for value?
No. He should be playing a shit ton of hands. Like Nandor here, I noticed a hand where Nandor was against Choppy, and when the stack size was such that he didn't really want to get it in, he just flatted Ace Queen against like a hijack raise or something like that. So seeing Nandor min 3-bet here really leads me to believe he has very premium holdings. There's always some misclick equity and things like that, but it really wouldn't surprise me if he just has a something like a Jacks plus or some very strong hand here. Given the flop check back, it's more on the Jacks end of things than the like Aces or Queens end of things. But I would say, assuming he didn't misclick pre-flop with that min 3-bet, he's probably got very strong hands for the most part.
And what do you think of Shookum's flat here? Shookum's flat here is very weird, I thought.
Yeah, I would say
he called the 3-bet out of position, like
Jack 10 suited, maybe. I don't know.
I would guess generally a little more premium than something like Jack 10 suited.
Yeah,
like I would guess like King Queen suited, Ace Jack suited type thing.
Okay.
It's a spot where it's probably a suited hand more often than a non-suited hand. Probably a hand that he thinks will do fairly well multi-way, and also something where he thinks he has potential to be dominating the razors, like something like Jack 10 suited. I think that he'd probably still just fold that with how tight Shookum's been playing.
Okay.
I can't be 100% sure by any means, but I would say something like a King Queen suited or Ace Jack suited would be my best guess.
I also think that Nandor's 3-bet there, that's also like an awesome spot to be light, especially with how he's been playing. I mean, Nandor's been playing pretty tight overall, and I've got enough history with him to know that he's not a bad player or anything like that. I'm pretty sure he's capable of adjusting and stuff. And if he's going to pick a spot to 3-bet light, it's going to be, under the gun +1 type of dynamic when you're shorthanded.
Yeah, I do agree.
That's a strong range.
Yeah, I do agree. Like in Darren's probably still opening 50% of hands from under the gun, and it's definitely reasonable to be 3-betting a decent amount. I'm not a huge fan of his sizing. Honestly, I haven't no one in my friend circle does a lot of that min 3-betting. Not too many of the guys I talk poker with do a lot of that min 3-betting, but it's something I've been seeing more in the last year and a half. I'd be interested in talking with more players who like min 3-betting from 2x to 3x kind of thing, and hear what they think the merits of it are. Because for myself,
I love it, but I think it's really player dependent. Like if you do it against a reg, I think they're going to be way more inclined to just 4-bet get it in, or just 4-bet you just because it looks so weak. But if you do it I like doing it versus fish because, I play lower stakes. I'm not playing this 10K, but versus like lower stakes players, you 3-bet and then they're just gonna, or you 4-bet, or sorry, min 3-bet, and they're just gonna fold to most continuation bets on the flop, just because they're gonna try to hit. So, I like doing it versus a few different players. Like I like doing it strong versus regs and doing it weak versus fish, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that. And then when you have that small 3-betting, then do you also 3-bet do you 3-bet like bluffs big against regs, or do you have multiple 3-bet sizes, or do you just have it?
I have multiple. Yeah, I definitely have multiple 3-bet sizes. But if someone opens like cutoff and you've got a strong hand like kings or aces or whatever on the button and 3-bet them, I think they're gonna 4-bet you a ton, just because it looks like weak.
No, I think that is a spot where it does look like pretty full of shit, and I can understand the merits to that. I would say, in general, like I try not to be like the issue I have with that is someone can see you do something like that and then just make a note on it, and then next time just proceed with caution. Like I try not to be too unbalanced with my sizing, but especially if you're playing at stakes where there's like a large player pool, that's pretty reasonable. Like being exploitable is always perfectly fine.
Yeah, this hand was super duper standard.
Yeah, ace king versus ace king. I'm surprised Darren didn't hit running clubs there, 4 clubs. He's been running.
We're running diamonds. I like making a lot smaller as well, my 3-bet sizings, especially when I'm in position versus people. Like, I do pretty much all my sizings based on whether I'm in position or out of position. And then I just do my frequencies based off of who I'm playing versus and the type of hand I have. Like I'm far less likely to 3-bet bluff out of position versus regs or versus aggressive regs or so on and so forth. And I also tend to make it a little bigger so I can have more fold equity, so I can have, much smoother like flop or turn shoves or river jams, or, to keep things much more smooth. When you're in position versus people, 3-betting smaller, the reason why most regs do it these days is because it keeps effective stacks much deeper on the flop, turn, and river. It allows for a lot more play, and you want to have a lot more play when you're in position versus bad players. If you're making it much larger, it's much easier for them to make smaller mistakes, or even to play well versus you, as they can just go, oh, he made it so big, I can only 4-bet shove here, so let's just rip it in his face. But when you make it tiny, they go, oh, hey, that's a really small bet, I can just flat my 9.
Yeah, just see a flop.
Yeah, I guess the other thing about that is, I mean, when you're doing that against players who are going to play decently well post flop, like obviously most people just don't play well post flop. Like if you it's not even, if someone's able to profitably call your 3-bet with like 9-8 offsuit or something like that, that's not that's not really a great spot to be in. Like what I mean is that is as far as I'm noticing a trend amongst a lot of players where people are almost bringing up their raise sizes because it's becoming so profitable to defend your blinds so light, like against people who are raising extremely wide from late position. If it's profitable for people to defend 80% of hands in the big blind, it makes sense to raise slightly less hands, raise slightly bigger to limit the number of hands they can possibly defend with. And similarly, if someone can profitably call with 100% of their opening range against a 3-bet, that's a sign that the raise size needs to be brought up to either press the value of your initial 3-bet or to discourage action so that you can have a bluff range. So it really depends, but I see people doing it even against good players, and basically my argument is more or less against good players who are going to adjust fairly well. I don't know that there's going to be that much of a place for them in 3-betting.
Okay. I also think it depends on your C-bet percentage, how often if you're C-betting 100% of hands, I mean then it's terrible, you're definitely going to be exploited. So some people do that. They'll min 3-bet, and then since it's a 3-bet pot, they have to C-bet all the time. So I mean it also depends on that. I don't know. 3-betting.
Yeah, definitely when people know that your range can be decently wide, it's good not to be C-betting 100%. But again, people can make adjustments to you as well. People, if they know that you're checking back ace highs on coordinated boards to try to get to showdown, they can start leading their 10 highs on coordinated boards so you don't get a chance to get to showdown kind of thing. There's definitely a bit. I just think that when you're giving someone 7-1 pre-flop, there's if they're capable of not just clicking buttons and trying to make pairs post flop, if they're actually trying to win pots and stuff, it's a tough spot that you put yourself in when their range is just infinitely wide, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Damn, poker is just not an easy game, is it?
No.
Yeah. It used to be sweet when everyone would fold to 80% of C-bets and it was always right to C-bet, or they'd fold to 80% of 3-bets, it was always right to 3-bet. But now that people are adjusting, any tendency you come up with, people can usually at least try to find a way of finding a way of exploiting that. It kind of becomes it's becoming more interesting for sure, but definitely it's fun when it's just a money tree that you can go shake and people will fold.
Just bet it'll win no matter what. Just bet.
Yeah.
All right, so we're still 5-handed right now. Nandor is the short stack, 20 bigs. I would expect him to be reshoving pretty often. He hasn't yet. I think Paolo's been chipping up pretty well. I'm going to call it right now. Paolo's shipping this tourney. Let's go.
Excuse me, guys, wasn't Nandor the one who was pretty moribund, not doing anything in the beginning at the start of this final table? How has that changed?
It really hasn't. I haven't seen him open up at all. Outside of that one little 3-bet earlier where he just gave up. And even then, Mike was saying that he was probably more likely to have value. I haven't seen him do anything that was out of line or even aggressive really. It seems to me that he's kind of just been waiting for very, very good spots to get it in and hasn't been trying to try to force something to work, which may or may not be a very good thing on this final table. I think, though, with his stack, though, that he really needs to start opening it up and trying to, build something. He has a great image right now if he wants to, shift gears and stuff. But I really don't think he has shift gears at all, and probably we won't see him shift gears.
It seems like the nut spot to jam too.
If he doesn't shift gears, he's just going to take fifth place, like always.
The other thing I would say, as far as like what we've seen thus far, right now we're in a spot where it makes sense for Nandor to be playing like reasonably loose. Like when he has 18 bigs, he can shove over lots of opens from like Darren Elias kind of thing. But throughout this final table, most of the time he's been quite short stacked in situations where other people have been short stacked, such that like all those guys kind of want to reduce variance a little bit. I would say that like if he stays tight right here, it's pretty much conclusive proof that he's just going to be a tight player. But realistically, I would say most people who would be making the right adjustments in his shoes with the stack sizes he's tended to have would have played pretty tight as well. So I think that over the next 20-30 minutes, seeing how he plays when everyone else has chips and he doesn't will be more indicative. Because right now I think most people, if they just had no chips all throughout the final table, they probably would have done very little as well.
Okay, I agree with that. I like that logic. And it's worked for him too. I mean, how much more money has he made just by knitting it up? Maybe 60,000 or something.
Yeah, definitely. Just being able to survive like through these situations, I think is, it's a really substantial thing. Like getting in those 2 million chip pots is just not something you have to do by any means.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look through some of the hands that Nandor has played and see if there's been anything.
And if your table is playing like real aggressive, like Darren is, like it can never be that bad to just knit it up and wait for hands, because you will you're gonna have big pots every time. So, I mean,
waiting. Yeah, I think it's good to I think basically I think the right strategy for Nandor is to be waiting for hands, but how you maybe my definition or your definition of waiting for hands is different than his. Like maybe he's still waiting for tens or ace king or something like that. Really, he should just be looking for pairs, broadways, suited aces kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it really it depends just how much he's waiting for hands, but I do think mixing it up a ton, trying to defend and check raise, bluff people on dry flops and stuff. He doesn't need to be doing too much stuff like that. But I do think that playing more than just premiums is pretty much mandatory at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
I still think that Paolo has really been playing the best at this final table. He's really been using his stack well, staying afloat, and he's always been in a really difficult spot with the better players on his left. And Shickham has been playing pretty well for the most part as well. I really haven't seen him do anything like that online, 3-bet bluff a few times. I think possibly 4-bet bluff once. The ace-10 versus Paolo. And I would say that Darren Elias, of course, just with the stack and everything, he's been running it very well. And Psycho has still just been kind of clicking buttons. And I really think then that Queen's hand versus Darren, that he should have flat the 3-bet. I think 4-betting there is a big mistake.
Yeah, I think flatting there is. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's probably a mistake. I do think as far as what I've seen watching Psycho play. I mean, I've never seen the guy before or anything, but I don't really feel as if he's been playing bad or even close to bad. I think everyone at this final table has been playing pretty fine. Generally involves playing pretty tight when Darren Elias has just kind of been bossing everyone for most of it.
Yeah.
And I would say that as far as me watching this tournament, I don't know if I saw in the final 30 players or something watching the tables, there might have been I don't know if there's anyone who I would say is a straight up fish or anything.
Definitely agreed.
There's maybe 10 or so guys who might have disagreed with a few hands that they played kind of thing, but for the most part it seems basically these big Lion online tournaments are getting tough.
Yeah, 10K online, not many businessmen. I mean, what businessman's going to want to play an online 10K? Some will, but, they'd rather play a live 10K way over an online one.
Looking through the field, like the screen names, I know there's like I recognized a handful of businessmen who play these, but those are like businessmen who play like 100Ks for fun and stuff like that. So it's not like your guy who just plays 5 tournaments a year or anything like that. Like most of these guys were like high stakes regulars who play the circuit seriously and just still do have a legitimate shot. Like a lot of them who have had success in these big blind tournaments before.
Darren opens under the gun. Shookum 3-bets him little under 3x. Is that 2.5?
Yeah, I like his sizing. That's what I like to make it out of position than like 2.1 in position, or even smaller.
And Darren 4-bets him. It's a pretty tough spot for Shookum. He's got to get it in. He does get it in. Well, Darren hasn't snap called. Yeah, Darren folds. I guess he was real light there. Do you like that 4-bet spot by Darren?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think Shookum's going to be light there very often. I mean, it's an awesome spot for him to be light in general, just because Darren's opening a lot, and just because it's also a spot where he's not expected to be light very often. 3-betting out of position versus an EP open.
Yeah.
I think a lot of regs love 3-betting light there. You don't do it very often, but you should definitely have a light 3-bet range there and a value 3-bet range there.
Do you think that he's also using Nandor's stack against some people, just as leverage right now? I mean, it is that huge pay break between 5 and 4. I mean, definitely could be.
Yeah, and Darren's light 4-bet is super duper standard there. He doesn't have to call the shove, and he can be nutted and have air there both very, very easily. So he should be doing it 4-betting both for value and both light. I mean, it doesn't need to be correct very often to work, and Shookum should definitely be 3-betting light often enough for it to work.
The one thing I've been noticing about Darren's game, which is kind of just kind of a I mean, it's a minor point. It's not something that's like it's not like it's not like a bet sizing tell. It's not like a mistake or anything like that, but just something I figure is worth commenting on. His sizing on 4-bets seems to be way bigger than most regs in a situation that might not necessarily be the most profitable way to play it. Like if we look at that last hand, let me just find this in the. If we look at that last hand, basically the guy 3-bets to 80,000 with 760,000 to start the hand, and he 3-bet to 172, which is 2.15x. Really, almost any size he makes it, Shookum's never going to be calling. So he can probably just make it, 1.8x, make it 145,000, and never really have to deal with getting called with those stack sizes, and especially being in position. Even if the guy does decide to merge his 3-betting range and 3-bet something like King Jack and call a 4-bet, that's not necessarily that bad of a result because you can often hand read pretty well when someone calls a 4-bet in those spots. So I would just say that he 3-bet fairly big there, and then the other 4-bet I noticed was even bigger. In that big 1.6 million chip pot, where it was Ace King against Ace King. Oh, one second. Was that hand? What was the action there?
That was a very standard. Psycho-In opens under the gun. Nandor rips it in. Psycho-In just snaps it off, and then the good old runner. Nothing's funner.
That's gotta be pretty sick at a spot like this after the queen high flop.
Yeah,
that's really some. It's a lot of Pokerstars pain right there. Just going right towards Psycho-In's way.
At least it's good to know that Nandor is not, completely knitting it up. If we saw him, defend Ace-10 suited or something like that, then we'd know that he's just the nittiest guy ever. But I mean, I think that's a good re-steal, a good call, just pretty standard cooler.
I'm pretty sure Shookum's American, Darren Elias is American. Paolo's from the UK, Psycho-In's a Swede, Norway, and then Nandor's Romanian. I don't know any of their real names. All I really know is that Shookum, Paolo, and Darren Elias are all very, very good regs.
You don't know Darren Elias's real name?
No, I know I should know it. It's a name that I recognize, and I know I should know it, but I've just blanked.
It's Darren Elias.
Oh, it is Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought that might have been the case, but I really don't know.
Yeah, it's like he's the only one who I know from playing live and stuff. I've played with Payola 6ix9ine live a couple times. I don't know if we've been like introduced. Like I don't know what his real name is off the top of my head, but I know that like, we've met and said hi.
Mike Ace High says hi.
It's apparently Paul Fulton for Payola.
Yeah, he's lead boots on tilt.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I think I knew that a while ago, but forgot that.
Darren just got river pretty bad there.
I didn't know Darren Elias was his actual name.
So Shookum just rivered Darren pretty bad there. I don't know what Darren had, but obviously, if he's calling the river bet, he had better than Ace High. It's pretty brutal.
I would say it's likely that he had a lower flush draw, or maybe like Jack 10 or something like that. Maybe Jack 10 with a lower flush draw. Like I think he definitely had like some kind of like pair and flush draw combo, or just a bear draw that he was bluffing with, or a combo draw.
Yeah. Did they get it in on the river? Was that just an all in?
No, Shookum just bet 1/7 or 1/6 pot on the river. I would say, in Darren's shoes, like it's it's probably a spot. Like I think Shookum betting there, it probably makes more sense for him to just like check and hope Darren bluffs or hopes he value bets thinner kind of thing. Like it really is just not a really good spot to get into when you get like the perfect river for yourself and you can only get a 6th pot off of someone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know, kind of a not ideal situation, I suppose. Probably
like 4 flush boards too. When you have the nut flush, you just don't even get paid as nearly as much as anything else. So like he doesn't even have that much potential to make a ton off that hand.
This is a pretty big pot for him. Anyone see how the action went?
No, I wasn't watching the action. I should probably be paying more attention to these.
Obviously, I was watching the last. Nandor! Holding!
Sick euro.
Nandor's making the comeback.
Oh, okay, so Shookum raise under the gun. Nandor 3-bet the button. I don't really like that 3-bet. I'd rather just flat there.
Sevens?
Yeah, with sevens.
Yeah, sevens is a...
Flop win check, and Shookum leads it, and then Nandor just calls down. Yeah, I really just know how he plays that.
With Nandor's like, I guess he's not really turning it into a bluff, but with Nandor's like, his reputation, I don't mind the 3-bet too much. I do tend to flat 7s and 8s like way more than I 3-bet him. But what about Shookum's call? You think he should have folded to King 10 there? Is his call standard? I think he should.
I think his call is standard. Like I would definitely be folding or 4-betting King 10 off, but 5-handed versus a button 3-bet. Like I think King 10 is going to have a lot of 10x's dominated. You're going to have like weird flips, and it's going to be pretty easy for you to flop or turn a lot of equity and to win pots. I mean, it kind of sucks that you're out of position, but 5-handed King 10 suited tends to play pretty well even out of position in a 3-bet pot. I mean, I don't mind folding it or 4-betting it, especially for say a tighter player. But I don't mind the flat.
All right.
Then I think Shookum's turn and river bets were both fine. I like the sizing as well. I just really disliked how Nandor played it. I think he got pretty lucky to have the best hand there and to have won that kind of pot. Do you agree, Mike, or do you think that he should be 3-betting the 7s and everything? Do you like how he played it?
I mean, I would say that it's a spot where Shookum should be opening quite a bit. Like, obviously, I think it makes sense for him to be opening a lot. And then it's going to be tough to win the pot. Like, with this stack size, he's going to end up needing to hero for a large chunk of his stack, a large percent of the time. So, I think also Shookum has a lot of incentive to bluff 4-bet there. Like it's, with stack sizes, it kind of sucks to get it in as the 3rd place stack there. So I just don't, I mean, I don't mind, your like 39, 38 big blinds deep, I don't mind just, accepting that if he gets a hand like 8s or better, he gets a hand 8s or better, but be willing to go for it and just, folding out, king 5 suited is pretty sweet pre-flop. And then once it gets to that flop, and then regarding the pre-flop call, I think king 10 suited would be it'd be kind of a close spot for me. I think that against a looser player who is more aggressive with 3-betting, I think it would be a very standard call. I'd say with Nandor, it's probably slightly marginal. Post flop, I definitely like shook barreling off. Nandor's call is again close. Like I think that it's it's just kind of the other guy either has it or he doesn't. He's probably not flatting that many 9s or 8s pre-flop, and he's probably not flatting any bigger pocket pairs. He probably has no 5s pre-flop. So it basically comes down to does he have a jack in his hand, or sometimes like 10-9 suited kind of thing. But basically it comes down to whether he has a jack or whether he's just bluffing like a king queen or a king 10 or also queen 10 beats you as well. But I think that when it gets down to it, you need to be good like a quarter of the time. You're just kind of like making a crying call, but I don't think it's an atrocious call by any means.
No, I think once he gets to the river, the way the hand played out, he has to call the river and everything. Definitely agree with that. I just think pre-flop, unless he was 3-betting pre-flop with full intention of 5-bet shoving, then I don't really like it. Which chances are I think actually he probably was intending to 5-bet rip it. I mean, it's a great spot for him to be 3-betting light. Shookum is definitely likely and capable of 4-betting light there, and you can just rip it in for value.
All right, guys.
Pardon me?
Didn't mean to cut you off. Is that Mike?
Yeah.
All right. No, please do finish your point, and then I wanted to say something quickly.
I just lost my train of thought. I'll let you continue.
My bad, Mike.
Don't worry. No. It probably wasn't important.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say, we are on break. I just want to make sure that everyone is feeling okay. I'm having a blast. People who are watching are really enjoying this, so thank you very much. Our commentators, Mike, Timex, McDonald, Jeff, Hurricane, Romano, and Ryan, Potential, Laplante. You guys are awesome. I wanted to say, just quickly, if I may engage in let everyone take a bit of a break and engage in just a little bit promotion of QuadJacks like we did at the last break. This time I'd like to talk to you guys a bit about our Player of the Month races here at QuadJacks, which is powered by PTPR Poker. I know that there's a lot of Player of the Year, and they look at it on a monthly basis, but we have a bit of a Player of the Month system that we like to keep up with from time to time. And this month's the Player of the Month for the month of July, I want to say, or was that August? No, I think it was August. For August is August is Nikolai Pobal, a Belarusian gentleman whom you can see here. He's definitely possesses that Slavic virility via that countenance. You guys know Nikolai or played against him?
They're all on break, Marco.
Maybe I'd recognize him to see him. I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Okay. Well, you can read up more about Mr. Pobal by clicking on the link I've just put in chat. Don't forget, also, speaking of chat, this is something I was talking about a little bit earlier. I see that we actually have quite a bit of viewers, just over 100. And if you just started listening and didn't listen to this earlier, if you're new or you're not acquainted with how it works here on QuadJacks TV, there's a chat box right under the screen that you're looking at right now. You can sign into that chat box via Twitter or Facebook. And once you do that, you'll be joined by a number of other people who are signed in, and you can interact, you can ask questions, you can make comments. We're all following along here, the high roller final table, trying to have a good time, trying to learn from our excellent commentators, whom you should all follow on Twitter. Don't forget, you can follow Timex on Twitter, at Mike McDonald 89, and then you can also follow Ryan Laplante on Twitter, Potential MN. I'm typing all of these in chat as I go along, so you can make sure you get the spelling right, and at Hurricane Jeff, Hurricane with a 1. So you see, guys, you know, I'm trying to give you a little social media plug. Anything we can do, you know.
You're doing a great job, Marco.
Thank you, Zach.
And I think
why don't you follow Zach as well on Twitter?
No,
please. There we go.
Please. No promotion. Don't follow me. You know that's my policy. This has been great, Marco. I've been learning a lot here, taking notes, and I think you put it out really well in that last tweet you said, Marco. That what was the tweet you just put out from your personal account?
No, I said that, you know, if you're not listening to these guys, if you're not listening to Timex, Hurricane Jeff, and Potential on QuadJacks TV right now, you are losing equity.
Yeah. Agreed. So we'll be back in a minute. Who do you like right now, Marco? I think that it's been pretty interesting to watch Schwartz come back. He was, he was on his last legs there. Ace 4 versus Ace 9 when he spiked that 4, and he's back in contention, and he's playing very well. What do you think, Marco?
I'm more into the Nandor phenomenon. I mean, I think Nandor has it in him to be the next Isildur one. Quite honestly, the kid's coming out of nowhere. You can't get a read on him. He's completely moribund. Then he just keeps doubling up, running well. You know, he's a star
numbers right now. By the way, they're talking about numbers. I believe Shookham said you guys want to look at numbers. Nandor says we can see ? And he says up to the rest of them. Pablo says I don't mind looking. So we're back, and we might be taking a look at some numbers here, gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean they got flat stacks now. Like Darren is not at this. He had 2 million chips earlier, you know, and Shookham's gotten up there, and Nandor's gotten up there. So I could see a deal happening. I don't know how Darren will feel about it.
I think it would be incorrect at all for Darren to take a deal. I mean, I don't think he'll end up getting a chip chop deal or anything like that. They'll probably just like ICM it, but it's probably not a bad thing considering the amount of money jumps that's in play.
And obviously Paolo wants it. Paolo should and Psycho, and just because of the huge jump from fifth to fourth. So we'll see.
Like, I'm not surprised at all if he doesn't take it, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they at the very least look at numbers and they try to
Darren's stone cold silent right now.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised, like, whenever you get to the final table of a big tournament like this, that, you know, deals just don't happen instantly a lot of the time. Like, especially the big field $200 tournaments and things like that. Like, here there's, it's just so much money to just about anyone. And, if they deal, the average payout's like $340, so someone like Darren would, get probably low 400s or something like that. And it seems like, even if you anticipate you're a fair bit better than these guys, there's, it's a poker tournament. We've all played thousands of them. We've all seen that, out of those thousands, how many absurd final tables have gone, absurdly bad. And then now you're at, a tough final table. Like, I've had situations where I've turned down deals just thinking I have an edge, and then I always feel kind of stupid afterwards. And when I turn down a deal because I think I have an edge, and then go on to win it, I don't feel nearly as good as I do bad when I pass up on the deal.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I like that.
Yeah, so that's
sometimes it is. Sometimes it is good to sacrifice your edge, though, just to cut down variance. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it's such a big score based off of your poker roll.
Yeah, and like someone like Darren, who plays extremely well online, plays a lot of the big live stuff. Like, he can probably expect to be at a live final table like that's this big, maybe once a year or like 1.5 times a year or something like that. But like for a lot of guys who don't play as big, like they might make a final table like this once every 4 years kind of thing. And it's really they're just so substantial that reducing the variance is pretty valuable, I believe.
It's good for your stress too.
Yeah, definitely. Like just getting into pots that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars is a little more stressful than making a deal.
Yeah, hey Mom, I flipped for a Rolls Royce today. What'd you do? Ace King versus Queens for a Bentley.
Pretty much been there. It doesn't feel very good to lose that flip. Let me put that out there. Debbie just said Mr. Bidar made a deal in WCOOP-21 with 4 left. He got 190,000, then went out fourth. Fourth was only paying 87, so it was a great deal for him. That's not necessarily true. That's definitely just results-oriented thinking. I mean, he very well could have just won it. Whether or not a deal is good is based off of a lot of different factors. Mostly it ends up coming down to not only your stack size at the table, your skill edge, but also your personal bankroll and how much that money means to you. So, for instance, let's say to Darren Elias, if he has like $500,000 to his name or something like that, chances are he should be dealing here. But a lot of poker players who are at their point in their career, like if they have that amount of money, they don't care. They want the gamble. They want the risk. They want the rush, the feeling of adrenaline, all that. And taking a deal ends up coming down to how big you feel your edge is and how much the money, how much effective it is to you. Like, there really isn't all that much, big of a difference between, say, $150,000 or $200,000 when you have $5 million to your name. But when the $150,000 is 10x your current bankroll, yeah. Also, how much the money means to the other guys, that can come into a factor as well. But chances are we aren't really going to know that information unless you know the other players very well.
You could shark scope them, see what their average stake is.
Yeah.
That's about the best you can do. OPR it. It is funny when you're at like a final table of a decent buy-in, like a 500 or something, and you see some guy's average stake is like 1050. You know it's worth something to him.
Yeah, it's always like, you never really know what someone's situation is like, and even there you could see someone's average stakes 1050, and for all you know, the guy could have like $1 billion in his bank account. Like you really never know. Like, no matter how much information you have, you never know the truth. Like,
yeah, and people whose average buy-in are like 10K or 5K or whatever, like they could be bust though, Lord knows there are plenty of those poker players out there.
Yeah, exactly. You never really know the situation. Like, I know there's one guy who played in this 10K tournament who, like, you'd see the guy, like, grinding the bigger 22 and stuff like that, and he just played in one drop this year, and, like, a lot of people just thought he was, like a low to mid stakes reg, and he just, happens to just, like, play in one drop for fun. And there's always just going to be guys like that, so you really just, you never know. His average buy-in online is like 50 or, a couple hundred or something. Like, you never really know what someone's financial position's like.
The one drop. Did you play the one drop, Mike?
No. With basically in Canada, you need to pay 30% tax on anything you make in the States. So it's kind of like an additional $300,000 in rake. If not for that, I would have tried to sell pieces for it. But with that in play, I didn't even try to sell pieces.
Okay. That. I was gonna say that must be such a fun sweat.
Oh yeah, like I had like 1.5% of one who got kind of deep in it, and that was an exciting sweat. Like it was, having keeping 10% or 20% of yourself must be huge. All right, here we've got a big
another basic cooler and flip, and Psycho ends on the bad end of it again.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for him to go from having so many chips to just a couple coolers.
Yeah, and to his credit, he actually ran pretty bad. I mean, even though that Queens versus Aces was like kind of a bad spot for him to proceed with the hand, I mean, still Queens versus Aces, it still sucks.
Yeah, still pretty much a cool.
Queens versus Aces against someone as aggressive as Darren. Like, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to say in hindsight. Like, before the hand, you just look down at Queens and you're like, oh, I hope someone 3-bets me. I hope someone 3-bets me. And then you get bet. And you're just like, you're just thinking about Vegas and the fucking Mirage. Like, you're not thinking about him having aces or kings.
Queens, time to double. Let's go.
Exactly. That's it's hard to even if it might have been better to call, it's hard to really call it a true mistake or anything like that. Like,
yeah. So Paolo moves up 36 or 75K. Pretty sick.
Yeah, they're up to now they're up to pretty big payouts at this point. Like my friend who final tabled this, he's won heaps and heaps of online tournaments. It's Matt Choppy K, and he was just mentioning if he gets fourth in this tournament, it's his biggest score ever, and it's just crazy to think that someone who's won so many of the big field online tournaments could just get fourth in a random 300 player tournament and have it be their biggest score.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet.
Oh, I'm surprised that he doesn't have any scores above that. Like I mean, he's been around for a very, very long time. I've respected and looked up to him for a very long time, and he's always been a very feared player at my table.
Yeah, he's super tough to play against, and he's just I think he's just one of those guys who's run fairly well and run fairly shit live. So he's live is where the biggest prize pools happen. So his his biggest cash is maybe 160 or something like that. So he just hasn't had any of those live binks that some players have had. And then online there just aren't that many there aren't that many tournaments that pay $250,000 to first. And even though he gets deep in a large percent of them, still only a few a year.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult to actually get a $250,000 score.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on Stars, which is where the biggest tournaments tend to happen, I think my biggest cash lifetime is maybe $60K, and I think there are a lot of guys who, their biggest cash lifetime on Stars is $30K even. So it's you really, you need to have a lot of things go your way to get these big scores.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my biggest score on Stars is only 20,000 right now.
Yeah, and that's
all
pretty.
my scores
That's
above
pretty
that are
common.
live. Yeah.
I know. I remember. I was talking to Mr. Timcom, who's been around for forever. He's ranked top 5 on the GPI, and he mentioned that he for 7 years of playing on Stars never won a tournament there. He won his first tournament a few months ago, and it was he won it for $1,200, but was excited because he had literally never won a tournament on Stars.
That's pretty sick. Well, he's not much of a volume guy. Speaking of which, he actually nearly exact bubbled it. He took 45th in this.
Oh, so that's probably among his bigger Stars caches, I would imagine. Even an 18K cash is pretty substantial for an online tournament. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's very substantial.
Yeah, it's a win in almost every other non-Sunday tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and even some Sunday tournaments, it's better than that. For me, this Sunday, I won a Sunday tournament, and it was for less than half of the min cash. So, it's a big tournament.
That was a pretty standard hand that we just saw. Darren raised under the gun, shook him flat. Flop was deuce 4-4. Darren c-bet, shook him called. Turn win check being a 10. And the river, Darren tried to bluff by making an 80% bet and shook him, heroed it off with 6s.
How's Darren not river that 8?
River the 7 ball and go for thin value. It's a great spot to do it too.
So now this is definitely a spot where Shookum can definitely put a little bit of pressure on someone like Nando or someone like Darren Elias, where they all obviously want to outlast Paolo when he's just got 20 big blinds. So I would anticipate that Shookum will probably be, even though he's been one of the tighter players, I imagine he'll probably be the most aggressive for the next little while unless something changes.
You think Paolo's strong here? Min raising under 20 bigs from blind versus blind, or is that just standard?
I'd say there's some strong hands. I would guess if he has something like King Jack, an Ace 10, the decent pairs, I think he'd probably be min raising those to try to induce action. But then I also imagine there's a lot that's balanced by a lot of kind of crappier hands. And for all you know, after that action, he could have had Ace 10 on that board. He could have been strong pre-flop and still just given it up kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I would guess that he's raising maybe half a hands there, 60% of hands there, which is probably tight for a small blind opening range, but still fairly wide.
You don't think that he would just rip a hand like Ace 10 off? Or do you think he's just going to try to induce with it? Or
I'm not as familiar with his game as some players' games. I'd say like ace ten off. There's a lot of value by getting called by worse hands. There's a lot of value by like inducing hands to shove. I'm not positive exactly what he'll be doing in that spot, but I think that ace ten off is the type of hand where you can even just like get it in on plenty of boards where you don't even hit an ace kind of thing with that stack size.
Yep.
I mean, not a board like king 9-6 or something, but say it just comes like 7 deuce deuce or something. Like there are a lot of boards where your ace 10 still figures to be good a large amount of the time. So I'd say that I don't know for sure. It's always like different players have different tendencies, but I would say that especially when Shookham's likely to be trying to bully people now, I think that it would. Yeah. I personally would raise ace 10 there rather than shove, but I have no guarantee that he would as well.
Yeah, I'd say like ace 9 or ace 8 would probably be my cutoff. I'd probably just like open shove those, so I'm not put in any like very difficult spots.
Yeah, especially with smaller aces there's just not there's no like it's like with ace 3 you don't want to like induce a shove from 10-9 suited kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. No, you want that to fold.
You could raise a hand that you would call off an all in, and that would also play pretty well post flop, like a king queen or king jack. Maybe
king queen, king jack are like perfect hands I think to like raise call there. Try to get action from more king X's than you would from a shove. And then also, like, maybe have a guy flatting like a queen 8 or something like that where you can get more money out of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Shookham's definitely playing way more aggressive now.
Yeah. But so that evens things out a little bit. But, like, if Shookham had won that pot, it would have put him in a pretty powerful position. Now I imagine, it'll just... We'll see whether Paolo doubles or busts in these next couple orbits, and then that'll kind of dictate what happens for the rest of the tournament.
It wouldn't surprise me if Darren Elias just doesn't want to do a chop at all. I mean, when they get down to three-handed, having position on Shookham is having position on him 66% of the time is going to be pretty huge. And Nandor, Nandor can get creative and get out of line and get crazy and stuff. I think for the most part, he's probably just going to let them battle and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't think that's a bad approach at all. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think if there was any point that this tournament was going to go into a deal, it would have been five-handed with the way the stacks were, and Darren Elias having the stack that he had been down to just over 1 mil, what he has right now.
Yeah. I would say if Paolo busts, it wouldn't surprise me if they talk about something. But again, you never know in these situations who wants to deal and who doesn't.
Paolo's saying right now, can I get 5-6 of diamonds versus ace jack of diamonds one time? Get up in the pay grade.
Yeah,
nice 80K.
Something like that happen.
80K cooler.
The pay increases, from 5th to 4th, 4th to 3rd, they're pretty substantial considering the 1st to 2nd pay increase is only 140K.
Yeah.
Really, getting 5th to 4th for 75K, that's half as sweet as getting 2nd to 1st. So it's survival has a lot of value in a tournament like this.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty top-heavy tournament. It just seems that the top 5-6 spots are somewhat flat compared to what they normally are. Normally, especially in the large field WCOOPs, the difference between 1st and 2nd and the difference between 5th and 6th is 2 to 3x versus more like 3x to 4x versus just 2x. The 80K jump versus 160K or whatever.
Paolo's got, 11 bigs now? He should be ripping pretty wide here.
Yeah. Shoving 30 to 25 to 30% of hands there, definitely.
Powell he doesn't really have any fold equity either on anyone. So he kind of has to shove for value, no? Like if someone opens.
Yeah, if someone opens, he has to be just shipping for value, or just shoving hands like Queen Jack suited, Jack
ones that don't gamble well.
Ones that can gamble well, he can build up.
Shook him playing pretty aggressive here.
Let's see if he becomes light here or not. I mean, I don't think he should be, but it's not necessarily all that bad of a spot pre-flop.
What do you think about his C-bet is, I mean, it's only one smaller, but it's the same size or smaller than his 3-bet. Do you think there's like, does that bet sizing mean anything? Like, a lot of players will make it a little bit more or a little bit, or like a good amount more. Is there any, if say he made it like 80K, would that change anything? You know, like if he makes it smaller than his 3-bet sizing?
I would say it definitely. I'd say it definitely really depends on effective stack sizes. Like I think that especially as you get shorter and shorter, when you 3-bet someone and they call, your equity advantage becomes larger and larger over theirs. Like when you're 30 big blinds deep and someone just flats your 3-bet, it makes like so much. It's so difficult for them to have something decent at that point. Whereas 80 big blinds deep, they can flat a lot more. Decently strong hands. So as a result of that, I think that it's fine to see bet pretty small when your stack to pot ratio is pretty low. I think betting something like that 40% pot bet when they still have like 5 times the pot might be a little bit too small. But at the same time, it's not. It doesn't really like. It's not like a substantial. I don't know. I wouldn't read it too much.
I think it's size. I think his sizing was like very, very polarized. Like it's either he has like a very strong draw or like a made hand, or he's just like full of it the entire way. Just because generally, if he's going to have like say maybe like a bare king of clubs, queen of clubs, or whatever, or like bare pocket pairs, just like weak value hands, or like more weaker draw hands that he's not comfortable getting in. But he's probably just going to make it a little bit bigger on the flop. So he would be, say, more leaning towards like 140,000 there versus like this 99999. Mm-hmm. I just think that it's a much, much more polarized range for him to have versus making it a bit bigger.
There's a pretty big pot here.
Yeah.
At what point would you say Darren's committed to the pot? Once he gets a certain, like, what percentage of his stack does he have to have in the middle where he's committed to calling the river no matter what? Like, if he calls this bet, does he have to call well, this is the river, but if he had like 600K, if he left himself 600K on the river, would he have to call an all-in?
No. I mean, if he leaves himself with one big blind on the river, he doesn't have to call an all-in.
Okay.
Like, it basically, a lot of the concept of getting... a lot of the concept of being pot committed is just kind of used as a way of, teaching players who are newer to the game how to make sure that they don't put in too much of their stack before folding when equities run pretty earlier in a hand. But later in a hand, you're either winning 100% or 0% kind of thing. And if you have a hand that's probably winning 0%, like even if 90% of your chips are in, you can still find folds.
Okay.
So that would be my take on that.
No, I agree with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think that it's pretty rare where you get to the river and you have to call an all-in because of the odds you're getting. Like, there are situations where it can be, all about hand reading, as MJW says. Yeah, which is why you can sometimes raise like 80% of your stack and fold, make yourself look committed in certain situations. All that kind of stuff. It's just so player and situation and like the type of odds that you're getting on a call. Like there are just so many river spots where people are never ever like worsen whatever weak value you have or even strong value you have. So you just like bet fold river, and it doesn't matter that you're getting 8-1, 7-1, whatever.
Yeah.
And the pot that we just saw beforehand seemed to be fairly standard, except pre-flop, I saw that Darren 3-bet the button with ace-6 off, which is very standard, and Shookum defended with ace-2 suited, and I don't really like that spot unless I'd almost like prefer like 4-bet bluffing ace-2 suited versus flatting there. I just think that for the most part you're going to be put in like very, very difficult situations, and it's going to end up being like some pretty bloated pots out of position versus a very good aggressive player who also has position on you. Like, I just really, really, really dislike that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that, I mean, the one thing that he does have going for him, which is kind of decent, is, and this goes back to the point that someone was talking about earlier, is say you're playing at someone who c-bets 100%. Against someone like that, a hand like ace-2 suited could be decent to like check raise some flops and put people in decent spots, or decently difficult spots when you cover them. But against someone like Darren, who's not c-betting 100%, capable of pot controlling a lot of hands, you're just going to be dominated a lot. And then when you're not dominated, you're just generally just going to lose the pot. Like it's, I completely agree that against like someone who you don't really respect, there could be spots to call something like that. But against someone like Darren, I think that that's definitely a bit of like a misstep to be calling.
Oh, Paolo needs a suit big time here. Doesn't get it though. Chop it up.
That's a big pot right there.
Seems weird to me that like Nandor tanked as long as he did on that like call.
Maybe it's because of Paolo's.
Like, yeah, but then if he's like worried about that, he shouldn't be 4-bet inducing. Like, if he's 4-bet inducing and Darren ships it, you just like snap it off all day, even though you realize that you're probably making an ICM stake due to payload stack. Like, I strongly prefer flatting the 3-bet first.
Ace.
And that's GG.
Oh, Paolo. Paolo got screwed, man. Shook him ran like God again, so it's too bad.
Yeah, he did.
3-handed now.
It's pretty unfortunate for Paolo there. I think the guy hit the 7 on him. What I was going to say, going back to the ace-king against ace-king hand, I think that's a spot where like the sizing that Nandor did, if you're based on like how this final table's been going and how people have been like sizing things, I would anticipate that when they're 1.5 million effective, Darren Elias would be 4-bet bluffing some and also 4-bet inducing some. Like I think he would generally be 4-betting or 5-betting to like maybe 350,000 rather than cramming the whole 1.5 million in. So I think tanking there, like personally, if I were in his shoes, I would anticipate someone to go all in with a pretty small percentage of their 3-betting range. So it kind of would catch me off guard. I still would call as well, but I would still be like, when it's a decision for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'd still try to think like, is this guy more likely to have ace-queen? Is he more likely to have 2s? Is he more likely to have aces? Like just trying to think about what types of, the most likely hand is definitely ace-king when someone makes that big cram, I would think, with those stack sizes. But I'd be trying to think, all right, if he doesn't have ace-king as well himself, what pairs is he most likely to do this with? Would it ever be a non-paired hand worse than ace-king, etc.? And then, it is just, I view it as kind of not that standard of a spot, even though it's ace-king against ace-king, only 70 bigs deep.
Would you prefer flatting pre there?
No, definitely not. I think I still think that there's like ICM considerations. There's still like just winning the I think you just are going. It's going to be really difficult to win the pot, and I think that one of the most important things, and I've been noticing this a lot more as players get better and better, is in almost any situation when you're playing poker, I think it's good to be able to keep your range uncapped. What I mean by that is you don't want to, you want to play your whole range in the same way as much as possible. Like you don't want to have a nut/air range and an always okay hand range. Like if you flat that spot with say ace king, ace queen, 9s, 10s, and jacks or something like that, people are just going to know that you have that range and be able to deduce that that's approximately what you're playing. So I think that keeping your whole part of the range with one action.
So you're saying that we should just be playing balanced then, well, versus these kinds of players at least, that we should just be more focused on playing balanced versus worrying about, say, ICM, and at least in this kind of situation. And I definitely agree with you. I think that versus, I guess I'm more used to playing versus, say, more worse players. So in that kind of situation, like, while yeah, they might be able to assume I have that kind of range, you know, they could also think that I have aces there or kings there or whatever. Like, they could think anything. And, you know, I'd just rather not make a big ICM mistake by forcing myself to get into a flip when no one's ever going to be late, or, you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I can definitely understand the point, like the place you're coming from, as far as not wanting to make ICM mistakes and not wanting to like really fuck it up. And I think especially, you know, say there's someone who's, you know, got a spot where they're only betting, you know, 5% of hands or something like that. They're going to have aces or kings a decent chunk of the time, and being able to prevent getting coolered by them is a huge consideration. But against someone like Darren Elias, who will be 3-betting such a large percent of hands, you just, similar to what I was saying with Nandor wanting to 3-bet, 5-bet the sevens, sometimes you just need to be like, you know what, if you get a better hand than me, like, good for you, but I'm just going to keep, like, you know, clicking the buttons against you. And something like ace-king suited, even though it's like, you know, bad ICM-wise to say, you know, get it in against jacks or get it in against nines, like, you can kind of anticipate that your opponent will be somewhat ICM aware himself and not just be wanting to, like, you know, rip it in against you with something like nines in that situation, right, such that he's going to have, you know, he's going to have his 4-bet inducing range, which is going to be like, you know, very, very thin. And then, you know, when he happens to 4-bet induce with aces and you run into it, then, like, fuck your life, I guess. But then more often than not, he'll just have, like, you know, he'll just decide to bluff 4-bet ace-jack or bluff 4-bet king-queen or whatever he decided to do, or bluff 5-bet that, and then you can just cram over it and pick up the chips, which, you know, helps out your position a decent amount as well. But I think it's just a spot where, you know, if he happens to have better, it's just really unfortunate, but it happens sometimes.
Or if you get into the flip and lose it, whatever.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all here to gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably am a little bit too nitty in those kinds of situations. Like, the way I would see it is, I've got a very strong hand, I'm going to have position on them, and I don't want to get into a bad ICM spot, so I'm just going to flat it with how deep we are and, you know, play it street by street.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it really depends on your hand and the stack depth. Like, if they were, you know, if they were like 200 big blinds deep or something, maybe I'd be more likely to agree with that, but I think it still is just so tough to
how deep
have that beat.
I mean, I still think that they're pretty deep and probably worth doing, especially due to how, you know, the sizings on everything have been going. Although, I think most of the time that we, as Nandor 4-bet, that Darren is probably more likely to, like, 5-bet fold versus 5-bet rip it in, or 5-bet then call or shove.
Yeah.
We aren't necessarily going to be put into him shoving on us and us having to make the decision.
Yeah. So I'm playing right now at the same time as this. I'm playing the stupid WCOOP stud tournament. So I've played like 100 hands of that in my life. So there'll definitely be times when I kind of like go, I don't know, just kind of lose my train of thought because I have no idea how to play this game and I'm somehow running up a stack. So I've got to be, I'm definitely kind of absent-minded at times.
Well, I think you've been doing great commentary so far. It's definitely been making this conversation a lot more interesting, I'm sure, for the viewers as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been fun so far, and I'm glad that they've got, you know, a good group of guys who are all providing like really interesting like perspectives on all the hands. Like, it's not. I always like when there's, you know, some like banter back and forth, like, you know, agreeing with each other, disagreeing with each other. It's so much better than, you know, like what's common on the forums where one person says something and then everyone just kind of agrees with them that it's standard.
Yeah. After a good reg says, "Oh, this is standard," then everyone goes, "Standard, standard."
Yeah, it's so much better.
And then someone tries to talk against it, and they're just no.
Yeah.
You guys are agreeing that agreement sucks.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Someone needs to be
Yeah, it sucks when we're all in agreement, isn't it? Yeah, I feel the same way. It's so awful. Oh my god, me too. I hate doing that. Gentlemen, you're all awesome, excuse me. Yeah, which one of you three am I excluding from the awesomeness? No.
Hey,
Nobody.
Marco, I'm trying to get in touch with Fairway J so I can know who to bet tonight. I've got 20 minutes. What am I taking?
Alright, well, look, I mean, did you not tweet at him?
I haven't tweeted at him.
I told you to tweet at him. What else do you want me to do?
I don't know. Aren't you guys like best friends?
Yes, Jeff. We went to school together and everything, even though he's like 30 years older than I am, or something. I don't know.
I'm tweeting at him, but he does have 17,000 followers. I don't know if he'll respond.
Yeah, he gets he gets pretty swamped, you know.
Yeah, half hour before Monday Night Football.
All right, look. Let me see what I can do here. You want me to just put him on the air with you guys?
I don't mind.
That'd be kind of cool, though. Yeah. I think Zach's on it, actually. Zach, see if you can get him on for a break, because like the first game starts at like 4, and we'll have a break at 3. I'm talking Pacific here.
Cooler.
And cooler, yeah.
Oh, who knows? This game might be over soon. Head up right now. Shook him.
Heads up.
Nandor.
Head up, boys.
All right, guys. Well, let's see if we can get some J, but
For a last second pick. Mike, you're a head up pro, right? Or you've done plenty head up games?
I've played a decent amount of heads up. It's definitely one of the ways that I worked on my post-flop game for tournaments. I wouldn't say I'm a very skilled heads up player, but I could probably beat, like, say, the equivalent of the $50 heads up games on Stars, or like 50 NL, maybe like 100 NL heads up.
All right.
So I'm not good at it, but I'm definitely somewhat competent.
Yep,
nice tweet, Jeff.
I assume that this is going to be a very, very long battle between the two of them. I don't really see either of them like getting like very crazy until they're like under 40 to 50 bigs effective. I think it's just going to be a lot of button raising, small blind either flatting or 3-betting, and then button flatting the 3-bet most of the time.
Yeah, how deep are they right now? They're each like 100 or.
They were 90 effective to start this hand, like 95 effective. So they are really, really, really deep. And this is a pretty big heads-up match.
All right. Well, I shall tweet accordingly, Ryan, in an effort to get people to tune in. Watch live what Ryan Laplante expects to be a very, 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 very long heads-up match. All the excitement like right here on QuadJacks TV. No?
I think this will go a while. I could be wrong. I mean, the way that Darren has been playing, I mean, they could just like ego war and start doing a lot of 3-bet, 4-bet battles. I could go either way. I think the amount of money on the line, though, that they won't.
Well, can we get kind of like an independent summary from each of you of these two players so far? I mean, what have you seen from each of them so far in this tournament? How do their styles differ? How do their styles coincide? Let's start with Jeff.
I mean, I would say that Darren has played better so far this tournament on the final table than Shookum has. He's won more hands without showdown. He's gotten his money in good more of the time. That having been said, he also ran better than Shookum. But I mean, Shookum did get that hand in that 4-bet spot where he called 4-bet ace-10 with no fold equity and beat Paolo's pocket kings. But I mean, either way, they're still both playing really good. So I don't know who's a better head-up player. I would assume Darren has the edge here, though. Even with his smaller chip stack. But I've met Darren before, so I kind of have an interest towards him winning over Shookum, who I don't know who he is.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff's overall statements and stuff. I think Darren is a better player and has been playing this final table overall. Like, I would say that Darren has been playing more loose aggressive and was definitely putting a lot of pressure on people when he had the bigger stack. But I mean, also Shookum has been in a lot of like really difficult situations because of Darren. Shookum was kind of like hogtied through a lot of the final table as well. I definitely don't think that Shookum has played badly by any sense of the word. I think he's played very well as well, and he probably just hasn't had the same kind of situations to really build or to as run the table over quite as much. I'm very impressed with both of their plays and styles in general. I would say Darren ran more loose aggressive, Shookum ran more tight aggressive, and I would say that they both played their stacks and their situations as correctly as far as I could tell. Like, I didn't see a spot at either of them where I went, what was that? That was bad.
Yeah.
That was insane. I think they both played great poker, and considering the situation this is in, the final 27 of this, final 30 of this tournament, the hardest final 30 I've seen anywhere ever, and we have two players digging it out heads up, and I would say that they're a pretty good average representation of what this field was.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the toughest field in any online tournament I've seen. I mean, aside from like a 10K head-up match, but this is different. And yeah, look at, Mike was saying, look at the last 25 players. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, I just remember saying to my friend when they went from, say 25 down to 20, how good that is for the field. Like, you lose there were so many incredible players who got deep in this tournament. There was a phase where just like a shit ton of the everyone I think in the end was good, but a lot of like the guys who are even next level good, I think were busting out at one point, and I think that was definitely a tough tournament overall. I would say overall I would agree with you guys. I think Darren will probably have the edge heads up, but at the same time, I think people are kind of giving like Shookum kind of a hard time. Like, I think he's as far as his pre-flop hands go, I don't really think I've seen him I don't think I've seen him do anything I really disagree with as far as what he's done with the pre-flop raising, re-raising wars. And I also think he's done a good job of playing tight when the stack size dynamic makes that be dictates that, and playing loose when that dictates that. And then I've noticed post flop a few of the hands the ace 3 offsuit and the ace 2 suited, he kind of put himself in spots that I don't think were particularly great, which is the main reason that I would say that Darren would have the edge heads up. But at the same time, I think this is this could very easily go either way. And with him, when I say Darren has the edge, when he has half as many chips, I'd still say Shookum's pretty close to a 2-1 favorite type thing.
Okay.
But it should be a good match.
I definitely agree with all of that.
Aces versus kings, let's go. Gamble. See, it concludes for the bracelet. Bracelet, right? Is that what they give out? Or is it watch?
I think it's bracelets for these, but...
Yeah, WCOOP's bracelet. Let's see. Scoop are watches. Pretty cool watches, actually. And then QuadJacks now are these little medals, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Medals. I feel like I'd want the watch most.
Yeah, the watch is actually really, really cool. I wish I had one.
Didn't Sean Deeb get 2 watches or something last scoop?
3, I think.
Oh, just 3?
Oh, yeah, just 3. Yeah,
I thought it was 4, but it might have only been 3. Maybe it's one of those stories that's gotten built up in my head over time.
It could have been 4. I know it's definitely 3. And I know he had 5 or 6 final tables, something ridiculous like that. He's been on a pretty decent run since, I guess his 2012 has been amazing. And he's an amazing player, too.
Wow.
Oh, next thing, 4. It might have been 4.
And then he followed that up by having a 7-figure score down in Vegas this summer as well, which was pretty sick.
Yeah, winning that 25K satellite. And then his first real day back online, he final tabled the Super Tuesday.
Jeez.
He's okay after the game.
No, yeah, no, he had the $1 million score. The satellite to the one drop.
Yep.
Yeah, sick. Unreal. Getting $1 million of those orange chips.
I was railing it as much as I can.
20,000. 2,000 of them.
So yeah, and someone was saying 4. He might have 4 wins overall.
Insane.
Here, no real big pots have occurred heads up yet, except for the full house one where Darren checked behind on the river. Yeah, that's probably correct, Zach. I don't remember. I know it's definitely more than 3, or definitely 3 or more.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact amount either. 3 or 4 is either way. It's not going to scoff at 3 if it is only 3.
Well, Chicken's playing pretty well right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Flipping up.
This is a really polarized spot. Yeah, I guess he did.
Do you like his 3-bet sizing 2.5 times? With how deep they are?
Yeah, I definitely don't mind the 2.5 times. Like 3 is probably might be better, but as long as like you aren't like hitting it or anything like that, it's probably fine. Like I would say like 100,000 would definitely be a headstay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that probably 2.5, 2.7 is pretty good at this stage of the game. My heads-up experience is again like not that substantial. I've actually spent the last couple weeks grinding hyper turbo heads-ups a fair bit. So like my 25 big blind heads-up game is pretty good now. But yeah, I would say like going based off of that, I would assume 2.5 to 2.75 is probably pretty good at this stage. Like doing 3.5x 3 bets probably unnecessary. This is I think around 2.5 is probably pretty good.
I was playing those hypers as well. I think any MTT player should play a fair amount of hyper turbo head ups, because usually when you get heads up in a tournament online, you're not sitting that deep, and like just having that edge is just so massive.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's something. So much of your win rate comes down to how you do heads up, and if you can just win, if you can just win 53% instead of 47% when you get heads up, that's going to affect your bottom line a fair bit.
Oh, that's massive, especially in MTTs. That's so big,
Yeah, being able to play really well shorthanded.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing I found really interesting is a lot of the things that I thought would have been true about playing short stacked heads up before actually getting into these were just a lot of my assumptions were just like straight up wrong, like just and like very wrong. So like I find that playing heads up, doing more reading, just kind of like looking at what different shoving ranges should be. Like I'm constantly getting surprised by the things that I'm finding, which is always kind of exciting in poker. Like it's easy to go through phases where you don't really improve that much, you don't really think that much about the game. But I found that grinding these hyper turbos is kind of like it's improved my hand reading. It's kind of improved just how I think about the game, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, shook him.
Nice
flopping sets.
Just want a pretty big pot.
It's always nice to flop sets.
Yeah, it's a big pot.
Yeah, and it looks. I would definitely say that Darren had a king or a 7 there too. It's pretty hard for him to have anything else.
Yeah, I would be quite surprised. I'd actually be shocked if it was a 7. But I would say something like a small king or like like a weak ace or something like that. All those hands would be kind of similar in strength, I guess. Could also be the case for, but yeah, I would say that it's definitely.
You don't think that he would lat most sevens on the river, or do you think he would just like
I think he would
rip
definitely
it, try to get
be check raising turns or leading turns, or like there's with just check calling down with the 7, I think is pretty weak there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when the sizing didn't look that ridiculous by any means.
Yeah, definitely. That's true.
Darren's now at like 50 bigs. Do you think Shookum's 3-bet sizing should change now that Darren's around 50 bigs, or just stay the same?
That's a good question. Let me think about this. I would say 50 to 60 bigs should all stay pretty similar, I would think.
Okay, and at what point would he change it? Like 40?
Yeah, maybe down like 45, 40 kind of thing. I'd say for now it's pretty okay to keep it consistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 700 might be a very interesting final table as well. Negreanu is deep in it. A couple other pretty big regs are deep in it as well.
Ray 31 deep in that, of course, as well. No surprises there.
Yeah. Blumenkrine, the Chronic 420.
Now that you mention it, Ryan, when this final table, when this heads-up match is over, QuadJacks TV intends to switch to that tournament that Negreanu is currently playing, the 23. In fact, we might stay on Negreanu's table on his road to the final table. We asked him if that's okay, and he said that he'll approve of it. So.
Yeah, I would guess once this one's done, I'm probably going to be heading out at some point. But if this ends really soon, I'll probably stay on the broadcast for that a little bit. But yeah, I'm definitely heading out within the next couple hours, probably.
That's quite all right, Timex and guys. I mean, you've been here plenty of time.
What's going on in Canada this time of year?
Not too much in my hometown. It's like it's a big university city, so it's there's like the population just increased by like 50% a week ago, and just quadrupled the number of young people, which is kind of exciting. So
yeah, I'm in the exact same boat.
Yeah, now that everyone's back in town, it's in some ways it's tough to be too motivated to play WCOOPs late into the night. So a lot of times I'm just kind of trying to end the sessions early, go meet up with people or go out kind of thing. So it's been pretty fun the last few weeks.
I like it.
Let's go.
What city are you based out of?
I'm in Boston, and I live right next to Tufts University. So like, just about a week ago, my streets have been flooded with kids, and I mean, in the north too. I'm like sure in Canada it gets pretty damn cold in the winter, and that's the time to do the heavy grinding when there's not much to do outside.
Yeah, definitely. It's just trying to enjoy the last couple months of good weather, or last couple weeks. We'll have to see about that.
I myself moved down to Mexico, so I've got all the weather I can possibly handle down here. Mostly I've just been holed up in condo I'm renting and grinding WCOOP.
Yeah, Mexico's pretty awesome.
Gotta be pretty fun.
Yeah, it's nice. But definitely enjoyed going to Toronto a lot better. 6 months in Toronto was absolutely.
Yeah, when we were in Vegas, you were living in Toronto, right?
Yeah, I just came back from 6 months there.
Okay.
Much more interesting. I mean, where I'm at in Mexico is where a lot of really big name tubeless tours are. Cabo San Lucas, and it's very nice. Pretty. There's a lot of stuff you can do outside, but it's still a small town. Ooh, big pot for all hush up.
Pretty tough spot for Darren. I mean, it's just a...
Any idea on calling ranges for you guys? Like, I'm not certain if I would call it worse than a flush here.
I didn't actually see how the hand played out. What happened? Was it 3-bet or was it single raised and check raised or what?
1 second. Let me try to get all the action quick.
The turn was check raised, wasn't it?
Yeah, the turn check raised. I think Shookum check raised the turn.
All right, yeah, then pretty much whatever you have in Darren's shoes, it's all kind of the same. Like, it's a spot where, you know, either he's got something like super shitty, like, you know, a pair of 60s bluffing with, or...
Oh, Darren with the hero call with the mid-set. Boom. King high, no good, Shookum. That was a good bluff, though. I liked it. That was sick.
Yeah, I don't think there's any difference between, like, ace queen there and what he had.
Yeah, it could even go, like, you know, one step further. It could be that even like a straight is the same there. Let me take a look at this hand and see what I think about it. I think if I were in Shookum's shoes, again, I haven't seen that much 4-betting going on this match. I would personally say that, you know, when Darren's raising basically every button and you're not that shallow, just getting more pre-flop value out of your king jack's decent. So I think 3-betting is a fairly good option. And then I think post flop, I don't hate the check raise by any means. It's a spot where, you know, you're going to have lots of turn cards that are good for you, and you can represent a lot of things. Turn sizing, I think, is pretty good. Actually, I probably would have check raised flop a little bigger if I were check raising, and then bet turn a little bigger.
Yeah, and then it makes for a much more smooth river shove, like shove that's a lot closer to pot size bet versus like the over pot size bet.
Yeah, and then the river jam, like, I mean, basically he got a run out that is pretty damn good for it. Like, you put basically, I imagine that Darren Elias would have played a lot of his draws aggressively on the flop. Like, if he had, you know, king 9 of hearts, he might have put in a 3-bet kind of thing. And so as a result, it's pretty tough for him to have hearts. It's extremely difficult for him to have 5. And if you're putting the guy in a tough spot, like, that's a spot where middle set is pretty close to the top of Darren's range. So as a result of that, I mean, even with the top of his range, it's a tough spot to be in. So I think I think that basically, you know, as long as you're able to value shove decently wide here, like as long as you're, you know, value shoving if you somehow have a 5 and value shoving your 10-9s and stuff, I think it's, you know, it's not so bad to be bluffing that king jack there. Like, I think it's a good call by Darren, and it's a spot where, you know, I think a lot of guys would be folding that since it's so easy for Shookum to just have a flush.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, it's a really big call in a really big tournament. You've got to give him props for that.
Are 5s ever in Shookum's range there?
I think that check raising, you know, check raising something like a 9-5 of spades, I think is pretty good, like on the flop. And then check raising, I mean, there aren't that many hands I think would be good to check raise with a 5 in. So I guess there's a pretty small number of them. So I would say that, you know, he has, like, when that river card is dealt, he's probably only got a 5 in his hand like 10% of the time or something, like a pretty small amount.
So you couldn't check raise a hand like 5-7, you just let it?
Yeah,
do you think that for Shookum's river bet there, that like a bet like say 500,000 or so would have a similar amount of fold equity, and thus is going to be a lot better versus the overship? Or do you think that when he gets to that spot, he should just be overshipping?
I personally think it would be better to set up the sizing a little better earlier in the hand. Like, check raise flop to 150, bet turn, you know, 220, and then that way, instead of shoving, what was it, like 1.3x pot or 1.4x pot, you're shoving maybe just over pot. But I definitely don't think the overshove is necessary, and I think that, you know, it's even possible that someone like Darren could be more afraid of the smaller bet than the bigger bet. I think out of consistency, when it's a spot where if it was a spot where like more draws got there, like say the river was like say the turn was a 5 instead and the river was a 9, which would be kind of similar. Now that would be a spot where a lot of your potential bluffs would have made pairs because you could think you're check raising stuff like Jack 9 and 10-9 and things like that. When more of your hands could have made pairs or made straights kind of thing, then I think that would be a great spot to jam this because it's tough for him to come up with bluffs you could have. Here, I think that I'm less interested in the overbet shove just because he can easily just look down at it and just be like, oh, I think he has Jack 9, I think he has Jack 10, like a lot of hands that a lot of guys would be check raising the flop with, or even 9-7, which you're turning into a bluff. Like a lot of hands that you can play this way would be like third pair or worse, so it's easier for him to come up with reasons to hero you. Again, like my heads up game isn't extremely strong by any means. Like I probably wouldn't have jammed this river myself, but at the same time I probably don't bluff overshove enough rivers, so like this isn't really my area of expertise.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I'm feeling here too. That heads up is one of my weaker games, not my area of expertise. I mean, still had some like decent amount of conversation and like beef up some spots, but for the most part, I'm kind of like not necessarily grasping at straws, but just trying to get good conversation out of the two of you guys as well.
I think if he's shoving for like a hand like that, if he's shoving rivers, what was that, like 500K? How much was in there? Like 700,000, or is that what Darren had behind?
Yeah, maybe 750, and he shoved like 1.4 times the potting.
Yeah, so if he's shoving like that as a bluff, he's gonna have to, for that to be profitable, I think he's gonna have to do it with lower hands in his value range, like maybe even some two pairs and stuff. Not on a board like that, but on different boards, like hands, because if he's shoving so, I think he's going to get more value out of, he's going to get thinner value if he's bluffing that big, is what I'm trying to say. So I think he has to do it with smaller value. I don't know if that makes sense, or if that's even right.
I definitely understand what you're saying here, and I would say that it's fairly likely that it was just the way that board ran out. Like basically when this is kind of going back to what I said about trying to keep your ranges uncapped. When you kind of have an uncapped range where you can have any of the like nut hands and your opponent can't have many of the nut hands, then that's a spot where it makes most sense for you to bet big. And then when you're in a spot where you always have something okay, and they can have better, they can have worse, they can pay off lots of situations, that's a spot where it makes sense to bet small. So I would say if say the river had have just been like a board pairing 8 or something like that, I would be shocked if he would have made that overbet jam. Like there would be like pretty atrocious to make that jam. I would guess that it's just because the way the board ran out, it's tough for the guy to have the strongest hands.
That hand was fairly interesting. Darren went for some pretty thin value, or trying to do a deuce on the river. Like pre was standard. Flop was pretty interesting. Shookum calling flop bet with backdoor, double gutter with the backdoor flush draw. Then turn going check. Like I think Shookum sizing on the river should be either a bit smaller or a lot bigger. Like I think he should either like be sizing it like 199,000 or whatever, trying to rep the same that he was with King Jack earlier, or he should be like sizing it small to induce a raise. I don't really like his like just over half. I think it's like two more like going for 60%. Like it's like what someone was saying is that Shookum seems to like sizing his value bets around like the 50 to 70% range, when if he's already been pulling some pretty big bluffs in the past, going bigger. And I think for the most part he should like be sizing value for bigger. Maybe not say it's an overbet, but at least making it more big.
Yeah, I think so too. Like a 3/4 pot or something.
Yeah, I would say so. The one thing I would say about this is, and I do think it's important. It's important to be consistent. I would say Darren's turn checkback range is quite weak. I would say Darren would probably be like, I think it makes sense for Darren to be basically two-barreling any 10 for value. So basically, when he checks back the turn, it doesn't really make sense for him to check back too many hands. So I would say when he checks back, it kind of looks like he most likely just has, he just kind of has a 9, or he could have like river to 7, or he could have ace high kind of hands. So I think that really, and also he can have the 8 himself. So as a result of that, if Shookum wants to be able to value bet thin, like if Shookum wants to be able to say value bet with a 10-7 or something like that, then I think it makes sense for him to keep it small, just hoping that Darren could call with 7-6, or could call with just an ace high, thinking maybe he has Jack X suited or something like that. I think that when you fire out the big bet, it's tough. Like it's tough to represent a wide value betting range. But yeah, I'm not. Honestly, I'm fine with his sizing, but I'm not sure that my sizing in those spots is good. Like I think there are a lot of spots where it's good to bet fairly big out of position, so that so that when you do have Jack 4 suited here and he has a pair of 9s, you're not always getting looked up, kind of thing.
If you were Darren in that spot and you had a hand like King Jack instead of the pocket 7s, would you ever check back the turn just to induce like a bet on the river from Shookum? Or is there too much value in betting the turn?
Well, the one problem is that there's still so many good hands that Shookum can have here. Like that, Shookum, like we saw how he played 8-7, or how he played 8-6 on Queen 10-9-6. Well, 8-6 and 8-7 are basically equivalent hands, so you can more or less be certain that if he had 8-7, he'd be check calling turn, or check calling flop to check raise turn. And that's just a spot where you can just put so much money in when you cooler someone like that. Or similar if you had 10-6 suited, 10-9 suited. And also just a lot of hands like, Jack 9 that just have to pay off a turn bet and may pay off a river bet too. Like if you're checking it back and then, raising river, it's just a spot where you're even after your river raise, you're probably putting in a similar amount or less money than you would have off of just betting turn and river, and he's going to have less reasons to try to hero fold. I think that's a spot where, especially if say stacks are, thousands of big blinds deep or something like that, then I think it's important to be able to have or even not thousands, say 200 big blinds deep. There it's important to be able to have the nuts on every board such that, you can induce 3-bet bluffs on the river by checking back King Jack or something like that. That would be a spot where I think it would make where it makes sense to check back at least some percent of the time. But I think here, when they each only have 5 times the pot, 7 times the pot kind of thing, it's important to just make sure that, when you have the nuts on a board where he usually has something, that you get paid off substantially and you don't miss out on value when, he just has Queen Jack and then the river comes a Jack or something like that and no money goes in.
Yeah. All right. Just trying to look at everything.
There was another interesting hand that occurred while you guys were talking, a pretty big one where let's see here, it was essentially 3-bet pot, Darren makes it, well, Shookum raises button. It was 2 million chip pot earlier, if you go back to it.
Alright, yeah, I'm opening
I was thinking that Shookum, instead of raising turn, should just be flatting turn, just because it looks so much more realistic for him to have his entire range, just all value and whatever. And I don't really think that Darren is going to be triple barreling here or anything like that. And we aren't necessarily deep enough for him to just rip the river either. We still if we flat turn, we still end up having going into the river, we're around 1.4 pot size bet. So if Shookum wants to make a reasonable looking bluff, he can just shift the river.
Yeah,
or do you like his turn bluff min raise?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I'm not a big fan of the bluff min raise there. I'd like to see what he had and then discuss the merits of it with that specific hand kind of thing. But most likely he's just clicking buttons, I guess. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of spots where, and I think this is one of them, where having a turn raising range doesn't really make that much sense. So I would agree with you there, yeah. Yeah.
And then there's another bluff that he ran recently that I noticed. The King 5 of Diamonds versus the Ace 3 offsuit that we just saw. I really dislike him betting the river. I don't think like Darren is folding very many hands that like when he calls, like I don't think his turn calling range like has very many folds in it. And the few folds that he does have, he might be willing to bluff those. And I think for the most part that he's just going to be checking back like ace highs and stuff. So like the range that he gets to onto the river might have like a couple different draws and stuff in it. And maybe like queen highs, like jack 9, like, you know, those kinds of hands. And that it's going to be better to check call river, just check fold it versus trying to double barrel.
Yeah, that's something that I would like. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot more lately. Is that on a flop like that, when someone checks back, they usually have something with some degree of showdown value. So really, him betting that 45. Oh, wait a sec, we've got an all in.
Good game.
All right, Darren won.
Good game, Darren Ilias.
The way that heads up went, like it just seemed to me that Shookum was trying to force things in certain situations, and they weren't necessarily like I don't think he was repping the hands all that well. Like his sizings were off a bit. He made some pretty bad bluffs, and like I think the King Jack offhand like really switched the tide of the heads up into Darren's, and into Darren's way, gave Darren a lot of momentum, and probably tilted Shookum a bit as well.
Yeah, it was over after like 15 hands after that or whatever. It was huge.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked by how quick the heads-up match went as well. I think that, things, it seemed like Darren was just, consistently right. He made that river call with the set of eights. It seemed like, even the final hand, he got it in with like less than top pair correctly in a spot where, the guy wasn't that credibly repping, stronger made hands. And it seemed like, throughout that heads-up match, he played, very well, and the other guy was definitely making, more, was definitely being a little more erratic and, trying to fight when I think that, Darren kind of, kept consistent, kept playing his, solid game throughout, and that worked out well.